Chapter 46-71. Benefits. When Xiaohua heard this word, he couldn't help but burst into laughter. He had never taken the benefits of the 3 continents seriously. As such, he had never thought about it. Yet, many people who talked about the people of the world had placed benefits in their hearts. Could it be? After Xiaohua understood, he said with righteous indignation, "You're not discussing how to resist the world exterminating strange insects here in the Lingyun side hall. Instead, you're discussing how to divide the benefits?" Thundermaster Xiao is wrong. Dongfang Qianghao replied without the slightest hint of awkwardness. We're discussing how to resist the world exterminating strange insects, but at the same time, we're also dividing the areas of influence. Amitabha, the Dipankara archaic Buddha's world lord chanted. Wasn't this matter caused by Banti Guanyin? Sai, I understand now. Xiaohua nodded slightly. If we don't divide the areas of influence, how can we determine who is resisting the strange insects? If we didn't find a suitable place for our Fortune Gate disciples in the 3 continents and 4 seas, how can you let our Fortune Gate disciples resist the strange insects? Indeed. The profound armored Pentaceratops nodded. That's why the immortal emperor didn't invite that brat Grandmiss to the Lingyun side hall. He's not qualified. Yes. It's precisely because the Grand Mist ancestor saw through the true meaning of the Jade Lake's gathering that he was willing to shamelessly wait outside. He was willing to reveal part of his forces in order to obtain the qualifications to enter. Xiaohua said slowly. Because today's Jade Lake gathering is a grand event to divide the forces of the world. After today, he won't be qualified to stand on the stage of the 3 continents. Yes. What can be obtained with just a few words today will be obtained with blood and battle tomorrow. How can he be willing to withdraw so easily? Immortal Emperor Go Chen replied meaningfully. Good. Xiaohua nodded and said resolutely. If that's the case, how do you intend to send my Fortune Gate away? Thunder Master Xiao. Immortal Emperor Go Chen said unhappily. How can you say that you're sending us away? Your Fortune Gate is now the publicly acknowledged mighty force of the 3 continents. Even I had to come out to welcome you when you came to participate in the Jade Lake gathering. Do I need to pay so much attention to you just sending us away? All right. Your Majesty, everyone, forgive me for speaking bluntly. Xiaohua really wanted to let them go to the ruins to see the miserable state of the dragon race being slaughtered by that strange insect. He really wanted to beat these supreme beings who were addicted to benefits awake with a single blow. However, he had no other way and could only earnestly advise. This Xiao is truly somewhat disappointed. This Xiao is not interested in the so-called division of power. This Xiao is only interested in how to resist and kill these strange insects. This Xiao has never seen Armageddon, and I don't know if any of you have, but this Xiao has seen that strange insect. Truly formidable. Master Xiao. Aoe smiled and said, Don't you think too highly of us? Others might not know how powerful that strange insect is, but the dragon clan of my dragon island and the dragon clan of the 4 seas know. A strange insect had killed countless dragons. How could the dragon island not pay attention to it? Moreover, the West Sea Dragon King went missing. The dragon clan and the oceanic clan suffered heavy casualties. The demon realm of the 1,000 demons sacred realm disappeared. The Demon King and Great Demons were killed, and the guardian heavenly kings of the Pure Land was also killed. How could we not pay attention to it? However, ordinary wars require troops to set up formations. Fighting against the world-exterminating strange insect isn't a one-on-one battle. We have to plan for the long term. Immortal Emperor Go Chen sighed. Amitabha. The Dipankara archaic Buddha also pressed his palms together and said, My Thunder Monastery has already sent Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and other Buddhas to lead guardian heavenly kings and other Buddhist soldiers to the borders of the blessed land world, to defend against the world-exterminating strange insect, and prevent it from invading the center of the blessed land world. My great sage Hall's scarlet flame vermilion bird, nether demonic dragon spider, and 5-colored sea god shell, have already led the demon race to the borders of the 1,000 demons sacred realm. Within the Great Sage Hall, the heaven-defying Thunder Phoenix and the flying feather void beast are left to guard. Master Xiao. Immortal Emperor Go Chen smiled and said, I have already sent troops to the borders of the buried immortal mainland. The 4 great families and the 100 schools of thought have already sent troops. Did your star-plucking tower not receive any news of this? The Xiaohua also smiled and said, the star-plucking tower is currently under Princess Zixia's control. If she doesn't tell this Xiao wouldn't dare to casually ask her. Please don't. Immortal Emperor Gochen curled his lips and said, you are the sect master of the Fortune Gate, and she is only your wife. You have to be clear about who the head of the Fortune Gate is. Don't regret it in the end. Xiaohua opened his mouth wide and looked at Immortal Emperor Gochen in a daze with an exaggerated expression. If this was the secular world, how could a father-in-law speak to his son-in-law like this? Xiaohua suddenly thought of something called the Flower Medicine Palace, and couldn't help but chuckle. Of course, I invited Master Xiao here today, because I have a difficult matter to discuss with you. The East Sea Dragon Palace Lord Ao Qian said. Also, I have a few difficult matters to discuss with you all. Xiaohua smiled and said, this difficult matter is naturally, where should my Fortune Gate's disciples be stationed? Previously, this Xiao didn't have a clue, but seeing that no one else spoke, and only immortal friend Ao Qian spoke, this Xiao somewhat understood. I presumed that before this Xiao arrived, everyone had already discussed this matter, right? Since Master Xiao is so straightforward, this king will also get straight to the point. Seeing that Xiaohua had exposed him, Ao Qian simply nodded and said, Master Xiao is right. The 3 mainlands originally belonged to the demonic beast race, Confucian cultivators, and Buddhist sects. Master Xiao's Fortune Gate is a Dao sect, and it is not suitable to be placed in any of the 3 mainlands. With this suspicion, it will be difficult to work together to deal with the world-destroying strange insect, and it will be impossible to work together. Rather than this, Master Xiao and the Fortune Gate might as well look elsewhere. I'm afraid it's the West Sea? Xiaohua's eyes narrowed as he asked thoughtfully. That's right. The East Sea Dragon Palace's Lord Ao Qian looked at Aoe and shut his mouth. The Dragon Island's second elder Aoe nodded and said, Master Xiao has also been to the Dragon Island and participated in the Dragon Island's training. Naturally, you know how vast the 4 seas are, and how many times bigger than the 3 mainlands. Moreover, the 3 mainlands' population is prosperous, and there are many cultivators and demonic beasts. It should be easy to deal with the world-destroying strange insect. One more Fortune Gate won't make a difference. Although there are many Sea Clan and Dragon Clan in the 4 seas, the reproduction of the Sea Clan and Dragon Clan is far less than that of the Human Clan. Their numbers are also much smaller. Therefore, the Dragon Palace of the 4 seas is already struggling to defend the 4 seas. Even if the Dragon Island only sends out the necessary Dragon Clan to guard the 4 seas, it is still far from enough. Moreover, the West Sea Dragon Palace has suffered a great defeat, and Ao Hong's whereabouts are unknown. The entire West Sea is now empty So, the Dragon Island wants to borrow my Fortune Gate's strength to guard the West Sea. Xiaohua smiled as he began to make small calculations in his heart. Xiaohua was no exception. He had just mocked Ao Hong, and now he was making plans for himself. Yes, Aoe did not deny. He nodded and said, Dragon Teacher Xiao is my Dragon Tribe's Dragon Teacher. The Fortune Gate also has enlightened Master Yin. Both of you are respected by my Dragon Tribe. The 2 of you are guarding the West Sea, and no Dragon Tribe dares to say no. That's right. Enlightened Master Yun split the South Sea Dragon Palace. Which Dragon Tribe member can withstand Panga's axe? Xiaohua sneered inwardly. Ao Qian continued. Moreover, the Paradise River of the 3 rivers is very powerful now. Under Jiang Hong's leadership, they have already invaded the West Sea. Jiang Hong is a Fortune Gate disciple. If Dragon Teacher Xiao doesn't go, who can? There's also Ao Zhan. Aoe did not forget to point out. He has also caused great waves in the East Sea and West Sea. Now is the time when we need people. It is not good for our Dragon Tribe to have internal strife. He admires Dragon Teacher Xiao the most. If you don't go, who can suppress him? Xiaohua smiled in his heart, but the worry on his face deepened. He said reluctantly, Second Elder, you are telling the truth. I also want to agree. But my Fortune Gate disciples are all humans. Jiang Hong and the other Dragon Tribe members are only a small part. I can go to the West Sea with enlightened Master Yin, but how can I let the Fortune Gate disciples go? Moreover, my Fortune Gate has a good foundation in the soaring Dragon Mountain range. How can I just give it up? It's not appropriate, not appropriate. This old man does not intend to let Dragon Teacher Xiao give up the soaring Dragon Mountain range. Aoe replied cunningly, once Dragon Teacher Xiao defeats the world-destroying strange insect, he can naturally lead the Fortune Gate disciples back to the soaring Dragon Mountain range. Cough cough. Immortal Emperor Gaochen coughed twice. He did not care about his dignity as an immortal emperor and said, Second Elder, what you said is wrong. How could Xiao Lei return empty-handed when he went to the West Sea? How can a small soaring Dragon Mountain range accommodate the Fortune Gate's ferocious army? Immortal Emperor Gaochen's current mood was no different from the Grand Mist ancestor outside the Soaring Cloud Faction Hall. One was shameless and wanted to enter the Soaring Cloud Faction Hall by any means possible. If he lost this opportunity, he would not have the chance to stand on the stage of the three continents. The other was shameless and wanted to invite the Fortune Gate disciples away from the Soaring Dragon Mountain range by any means possible. If he lost this opportunity, he would not have the chance to invite Xiaohua to leave. Old Man Gaochen. Aoe did not care about Immortal Emperor Gaochen's attitude. He smiled and said, It's not that my Dragon Island doesn't agree. It's just that Dragon Teacher Xiao doesn't care about my West Sea. He is a human, and he still prefers to stay on the continent. That. Immortal Emperor Gaochen smiled and said, Dragon Teacher Xiao, there are many immortal mountains in the depths of the West Sea. They are much stronger than the soaring Dragon Mountain range. Dragon Teacher Xiao, you can look around casually when you are fighting the strange insect. You will definitely find a suitable place. Look around casually? Your Majesty is too relaxed. Xiaohua smiled and said, Even the Dragon Kings of the Four Seas could not find the immortal mountains. How can I find them? That's because they don't want to. Immortal Emperor Gaochen persuaded. They are used to the sea and never care about immortal mountains. Naturally, they won't be able to find them. If Dragon Teacher Xiao goes to look for them, you will definitely find them. Maybe I can find them. Xiaohua smiled and said. But this Xiao's Fortune Gate has spent so much effort on the soaring Dragon Mountain range. Oh, this Xiao also has the newly established Xiao country. If the Fortune Gate goes, wouldn't the Xiao country be divided? Immortal Emperor Gaochen was angry and found it funny as he replied, If Dragon Teacher Xiao cares about the people of the Xiao country, you shouldn't be bargaining. If you don't go to the West Sea to guard it, when the strange insect comes, none of the people of the Xiao country will be able to survive. Damn it, Old Man Gaochen, didn't you say your conditions before? The golden-winged Great Peng couldn't hold back and scolded. No matter what, Dragon Teacher Xiao is your son-in-law. Can't you be a bit more generous? Rock Sage, it's easy for you to say that. Immortal Emperor Go Chen retorted without any trace of politeness. I have bestowed Princess Zixia a lot. This is rare among the princesses of my immortal palaces. Moreover, I also have a decree for Bayan, Fujiwen's wife. It's just a few words of nonsense. What's the use of a few titles? The golden-winged Great Peng sneered. It's better to give some real stuff. All right. Immortal Emperor Gaochen said helplessly. Dragon Teacher Xiao, tell me, if your Fortune Gate leaves the soaring Dragon Mountain range, what price will this emperor have to pay? Why do you have to make this Xiao leave? Xiaohua didn't understand and said, The Fortune Gate is in the soaring Dragon Mountain range, and Princess Zixia is also in the Fortune Gate. If she wants to go back to her family, wouldn't it be convenient? Haha, Dragon Teacher Xiao. Dongfang Qianghao, who had been silent all this time, laughed and said, We don't need to play dumb here. We might as well speak the truth. You are a Taoist cultivator, and the hidden immortal continent is the 9 prefectures unified by us Confucian cultivators. Your Fortune Gate is in the soaring Dragon Mountain range. Isn't this a thorn in the flesh of us Confucian cultivators? The struggle between Confucian and Taoist has been going on for many years. It's not something that can be changed in a short period of time. Rather than both of us being embarrassed and inconvenient for each other to develop, why don't we each take a step back? We Confucian cultivators will allow your Taoist sect to develop in the West Sea. and your Taoist sect will withdraw from the hidden immortal continent. What do you think? And Xiaohua nodded slightly. From the Seven Suns Temple's blood steel, he also saw the abnormal development of the Taoist sect's cultivators. The Taoist sect's cultivators had already affected his reputation. Moreover, the three mainland suppression of Confucian cultivators to allow Confucian cultivators to develop overseas was indeed a concession. No, it should be said that it was a huge concession. Instantly, Xiaohua thought of the Penglai immortal realm. Xiaohua's mind turned a few times. He wanted to ask Immortal Emperor Gaochen to release the Taoist cultivators in the Penglai immortal realm. However, after thinking for a while, he gave up. Not to mention that the Penglai immortal realm was related to the effects of the supreme heavenly mirror. Immortal Emperor Gaochen was unlikely to relent. Moreover, most of the Taoist cultivators in the Penglai immortal realm were probably like Taoist Master Rider Crane. They had an impression of the Grand Mist ancestor, and might not care about him. Why should Xiaohua be so generous? Dragon Teacher Xiao, you agree? Dongfang Qianghao was overjoyed when he saw Xiaohua nod. He wanted to send Xiaohua away even more than Immortal Emperor Gaochen. With him, the balance between the Immortal Palace and the four great families was broken. Dongfang Qianghao and the four great families were not willing to see such a situation, especially the Nangong family. It's the same in principle. Xiaohua nodded. Then, without any surprise, he changed his tone and said, however, I still have 3 conditions. 3 conditions? Dongfang Qianghao was secretly delighted. He stole a glance at Immortal Emperor Gaochen. Immortal Emperor Gaochen smiled and said, Dragon Teacher Xiao, please speak. In front of the Thunder Temple and Great Sage Hall, we will be frank and honest. First, Xiaohua rubbed his chin and said with a smile, at this point, Your Majesty still doesn't want to take out the true great array of the 9 states and the secret technique of the 9 cauldrons united? This. Immortal Emperor Gaochen was clearly embarrassed. He hesitated and said, since that person isn't here, why does Dragon Teacher Xiao need the formation technique and the secret technique of the 9 cauldrons united? I don't need it, Xiaohua said. However, I don't like to be called scheming by others. Therefore, I want it. Sigh, alright. Immortal Emperor Gaochen looked at Xiaohua's shameless words and sighed. I have lifted a rock and smashed my own foot. As he spoke, Immortal Emperor Gaochen raised his hand and clapped. Boom. Below him, the illusion of a golden throne appeared. Once this illusion appeared, it immediately sealed the surrounding space. Even Dongfang Qianghao, who was far away, was pushed to the point that colorful clouds appeared around him. Immortal Emperor Gaochen raised his hand and pointed at the 9 cauldrons on the golden throne. The 9 cauldrons turned into a fist-sized object. This object was formed by the 9 cauldrons, and each of them flashed with a golden light. Dragon Teacher Xiao, Immortal Emperor Gaochen waved his hand, and that object landed in front of Xiaohua. He said, this object cannot leave the Lingyan side hall. Otherwise, with my strength, I will not be able to see what is inside. You can comprehend it in the Jade Lake meeting. Before you leave, you must return it to me. Well said. Xiaohua received it with a smile and carefully put it away. Earlier, Maitreya Buddha used his mind to tell Xiaohua that the merit law given to him by Immortal Emperor Gaochen was a fake and couldn't be completed. Thinking about Immortal Emperor Gaochen's probing, Xiaohua knew that this merit law was only a pretense. Therefore, he asked for the real 9 cauldrons heart technique. What is the second condition? Dongfang Qianghao was very happy to see Immortal Emperor Gaochen being defeated. The second condition. Xiaohua looked at Dongfang Qianghao. Dongfang Qianghao's heart tightened. He was afraid that Xiaohua would ask for too much. The second condition is that I want the Xianyuan sword from the Immortal Palace. Ah? Xianyuan sword? Not only was Dongfang Qianghao surprised, Immortal Emperor Gaochen was also shocked. He exclaimed, Dragon Teacher Xiao, what do you want the Xianyuan sword for? Nothing. Xiaohua shrugged and said, I heard that the Xianyuan sword is a Taoist treasure. Now that it has fallen into the Immortal Palace, I want to take it back. Who told you that the Xianyuan sword is a Taoist treasure? Immortal Emperor Gaochen was flustered and exasperated. The Xianyuan sword is a genuine immortal imperial equipment of my Confucian cultivation. It has nothing to do with your Taoist sect. Hearing immortal Emperor Gaochen say half a copper coin, Xiaohua secretly laughed. However, he still insisted. Whether it is a Taoist treasure or not, I want it. Then there is no other way. Immortal Emperor Gaochen shrugged like Xiaohua and said, It is not up to me to decide who the Xianyuan sword belongs to. That is the token of the Immortal Palace's protector branch. If you want it, you can go find the master of the Supreme Pure Palace. Immortal Palace's protector? Xiaohua was a bit confused. That day, the master of the Supreme Pure Palace easily gave the Xianyuan sword to Wen Chu. He already had some doubts in his heart. Dongfang Qianghao explained. Immortal Palace's protector is the protector of the Immortal Palace. That Xianyuan sword. He. It is also something that can resist the Immortal Emperor's Son of Heaven sword. If the Immortal Palace's protector discovers that the Immortal Emperor is committing crimes and harming the interests of the Immortal Palace, the Xianyuan sword will be unsheathed. This Immortal Palace's protector branch is completely loyal to the Immortal Palace, to the Confucian cultivators, and not to a certain family. The number of Buddhist temples was increasing, and he did not care about the Shao country. He nodded and said, Since that is the case, I will do the same. What is Thunder Master Zhao's third condition? The third condition is very easy for your majesty. Xiaohua took out a jade eye and respectfully handed it to Immortal Emperor Gaochen. Your majesty only needs to send the item in the jade eye to the Soaring Dragon Mountain range. Seeing Xiaohua's kind smile, Immortal Emperor Gaochen had a bad feeling. After he took the jade eye and looked at it, his expression changed slightly. In just a moment, Immortal Emperor Gaochen regained his calm. He nodded and said, This compensation is fair. After all, the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range is the foundation of the Fortune Gate for hundreds of years. Minister Dongfang, I will leave this matter to the 4 great families and the 100 schools of thought. Ah? Dongfang Qianghao was caught off guard, but he was also helpless. This matter was not only related to the Immortal Palace, but also the 4 great families. Since Immortal Emperor Gaochen gave the order, it was an emperor's decree. The 4 great families and the 100 schools of thought could not disobey. Of course, Dongfang Qianghao's face turned green after reading the jade eyes. He glanced at Xiaohua and said in a low voice, This old man understands. This old man will send a message and send what Taoist Master Xiao wants to the Soaring Dragon Mountain range. After Dongfang Qianghao sent the jade eyes out of the Lingyun side hall, Xiaohua looked at Aoe again. Aoe immediately understood when he saw that Xiaohua had looked at him. He smiled and said, Master Xiao, you've already plundered half of the treasures in the West Ocean Dragon Palace's treasury. Xiaohua chuckled and said, This Xiao does not dare to ask for anything. This Xiao is just thinking, if our Fortune Gate manages to resist the world-destroying strange insects in the West Sea and fails to find the overseas immortal mountains, then we would have to give up on the Soaring Dragon Mountain range. Wouldn't our Fortune Gate become a wanderer who can't return home? No, of course not. The golden-winged Great Peng immediately understood what Xiaohua wanted to say, and hurriedly shouted, We can't let the Fortune Gate's disciples bleed and cry, we must appease them. Your grandmother. Ao Qian cursed inwardly. We haven't even seen the world-destroying strange insect. Why are the Fortune Gate's disciples bleeding and crying? Each and every one of them is sinister. Aoe glanced at Ao Qian and asked Xiaohua in a low voice, Dragon Master Xiao, could it be that you wanted? Aoe looked at Ao Qian again as he said that. Impossible. 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 Ao Qian's dragon body expanded in an instant, and the silvery white flames around him soared to the sky. He roared. The Fortune Gate is just a branch of the human race. How can they enter my West Sea Dragon Palace? Not to mention this king. Even the North Sea Dragon Palace and South Sea Dragon Palace will not agree. Second elder, if you are an elder of my dragon race, you will not agree to this condition. If Dragon Master Zhao's Fortune Gate wants to set up defenses in the West Sea, my Dragon Palace of the 4 Seas will welcome him. If he is unwilling to go, he can go wherever he wants. My Dragon Palace of the 4 Seas would rather die in battle than give up the West Sea Dragon Palace's position. Xiaohua naturally coveted the West Sea Dragon Palace's position in his heart, and he had planned this from a long time ago. However, when he saw the East Sea Dragon King's anger, he only needed to set up defenses, and he obtained a lot of benefits from the Confucian Cultivator. Although the Dragon Island in front of him wanted to interfere with the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas, the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas also needed his help, so he couldn't make unrealistic demands. Thus Xiaohua smiled and said, "Fellow immortal Ao, it seems. This Xiao hasn't finished saying my request, right?" Say it. Ao Qian coldly said. "If you don't covet my West Sea Dragon Palace's throne, why would you send Jiang Hong to invade the West Sea? Why would you threaten my dragon race again? You've really wronged my Fortune Gate's disciple." Xiaohua rubbed his nose and laughed. Jiang Hong heard that there were strange insects in the West Sea, so she led the dragon race there. Moreover, this Xiao's condition is to wait until the West Sea's strange insects are killed. Then let the second elder see if he can give the other half of the West Sea's treasury to my Fortune Gate. Ah. Ao Qian was a little surprised, but he still didn't believe Xiaohua. So he looked at Aoe. How could Aoe admit that he was talking about the West Sea Dragon Palace's throne? He smiled and said, "Yes, you're too impatient. This old man is talking about the treasury. This Xiao has seen the West Sea's treasury, and has always been drooling over the other half." Xiaohua smiled and said, "Moreover, this Xiao can also swear to the heavens that my Fortune Gate's disciple will never sit on the West Sea Dragon Palace's dragon throne." Of course, Xiaohua was still laughing in his heart. Xiaobai is not a Fortune Gate's disciple, so it's fine if he sits on the dragon throne. Ao Qian harumphed coldly. The West Sea Dragon Palace's dragon throne has disappeared with Ao Hong. Presumably it has been swallowed by the strange insects. It's impossible for your Fortune Gate's disciple to sit on it. That's right. The golden-winged Great Peng didn't miss the opportunity to say, since Dragon Teacher Xiao has sworn, then this holy sage will also be a witness. If a Fortune Gate's disciple sits on the West Sea Dragon Palace's dragon throne, my great holy hall will not let this matter go. Io, that's not right. It should be this time. This holy sage will not interfere in the future. The Lord of the East Sea's dragon body shrunk and nodded. If that's the case, after repelling the strange insects, my Dragon Palace of the Four Seas is willing to hand over the West Sea Dragon Palace's treasury to the Fortune Gate as a token of gratitude. However, this matter will need to be discussed in detail in the future. Excellent. Maitreya Buddha, who had been silent all this time, joined his palms together and said, "Since that's the case, let us discuss some other difficult matters." Namo Maitreya Buddha. Please wait a moment. Xiaohua smiled and joined his palms together. Since the Fortune Gate's matter has come to an end then, shouldn't we let the sky-bearing palace bear some responsibility? Immortal Emperor Gaochen nodded and said, "That's right, Dragon Teacher Zhao's words are in line with this emperor's thoughts. We, the Confucian cultivators, have already promised the Tao Gate that we can develop outside the West Sea. Naturally, the Tao Gate should bear some responsibility. Since the sky-bearing palace belongs to the Tao Gate, then it should be like the Fortune Gate and go to the West Sea to resist the strange insects. Inform Ancestor Grand Mist." Outside the soaring cloud-side palace, the Grand Mist Ancestor, Taoist Rider Crane, and Anya Z stood with their hands behind their backs. Although they were whispering to each other, their gazes were constantly on the soaring cloud-side palace's door. However, the three of them had different expressions. Taoist Rider Crane and Anya Z were obviously anxious, and in just a short moment, they had already glanced at the door several times. On the other hand, the Grand Mist Ancestor was indeed an ambitious and ruthless character. Although he occasionally glanced at the door, most of the time, he was calm and indifferent. In the end, Taoist Rider Crane couldn't take it anymore. He looked at the ferocious immortal generals in front of the soaring cloud-side palace and whispered, "Sect Master, how long has it been? Are we still waiting here? No matter what, we are still high-level cultivators of the Tao Gate. Are we going to stand here like beggars? It feels like we are waiting for the immortal palace to give us leftovers." The taciturn Anyazi also chimed in, "Sect Master, our sky-bearing palace doesn't rely on the Fortune Gate. Isn't our development in the hidden immortal continent very good? Why do we have to stick our warm faces to their cold buttocks? We are being looked down on for no reason. Umph. Grand Mist Ancestor snorted coldly and glanced at the two of them. He understood that most cultivators were obsessed with cultivation and didn't understand the art of politics. Anya Z and Taoist Rider Crane were considered famous figures in the sky-bearing palace, but they couldn't see the current situation clearly. The Grand Mist Ancestor explained the current situation in a low voice. His analysis was exactly the same as what Immortal Emperor Gochun had said. In the end, he said, if we can't enter the soaring cloudside palace and participate in the Jade Lake gathering, our sky-bearing palace will lose our best chance. Of course, it's not like we don't have a chance in the future, but in the future, Xiaohua's Fortune Gate will definitely attack our sky-bearing palace. We can't fight for such good conditions anymore. What if? Anyazi hesitated and probed. The Fortune Gate, Buddhist sect, Thundersound Temple, and Great Sage Hall reach an agreement and join forces to destroy our sky-bearing palace. The Grand Mist Ancestor laughed arrogantly. So, this old man is betting that Xiaohua won't do that. Taoist Rider Crane's expression changed slightly. He looked at Anya Z and the two of them had fear in their eyes. Xiaohua has always prided himself on being benevolent and magnanimous. If this old man deliberately avoided him, it would be as he wished. However, this old man took the risk and delivered himself to his door. This old man wants to see. The Grand Mist Ancestor laughed and said indifferently, what will the famous Taoist Xiao do? Sect Master, how confident are you? Taoist Rider Crane asked in a low voice. Not even half. The Grand Mist Ancestor chuckled and said, because if it was this old man would definitely kill him. No, it can't be. Taoist Rider Crane saw that the Grand Mist Ancestor's words were completely different from what he had said before coming to the soaring cloudside palace. His face turned pale and he whispered, if the sect master isn't confident he's going to walk into the trap? Haha. The Grand Mist Ancestor laughed when he saw how nervous Taoist Rider Crane and Anya Z were. He clapped his hands and said, the two of you are really funny. If this old man wasn't confident, why would I come here? Previously, we didn't have a chance. This old man endured humiliation and hid from the Immortal Palace's pursuit. Now that this old man dares to come here, how can I not have a chance? Don't worry. Xiaohua claims to be the leader of the Taoist Gate. Since he dares to erect a bloodsteel in the Seven Suns Shrine, he definitely won't let the Immortal Palace make a move on the sky-bearing palace. Moreover, if he wanted to make a move, why would he wait until now? He has plenty of chances in the Longevity Town. Yes, this subordinate understands. Taoist Rider Crane and Anya Z nodded their heads. However, they still felt that the Grand Mist Ancestor's idea was too crazy. Also, the Grand Mist Ancestor lost his composure and revealed some of his thoughts. He didn't think that it would affect his subordinates so much. He smiled regretfully and said, the two of you aren't at the Taoist Gate's Mahayana realm, even if the Immortal Palace wants to. Just as the Grand Mist Ancestor was speaking, a thunderous voice rang out from the soaring cloudside palace. Summon the Grand Mist Ancestor. Ha! The Grand Mist Ancestor stopped and laughed loudly. What do you think of this old man? Congratulations, Sect Master. Reverend Rider Crane and Anya Zizi replied respectfully with smiles on their faces. Let's go, follow this old man to the soaring cloudside palace. The Grand Mist Ancestor seemed to be elated as he waved his hand. Sect Master, please. Taoist Rider Crane and Anya Z bowed and invited the Grand Mist Ancestor to go first. Unfortunately, the Grand Mist Ancestor only flew for a short while before he was blocked by the Immortal General of the soaring cloudside palace. The Grand Mist Ancestor frowned and said, this old man is the Grand Mist Ancestor. The Immortal Emperor has issued a decree. Why aren't you moving out of the way? The Immortal General looked at the Grand Mist Ancestor with disdain and said indifferently, this general is here to guard the door. Without the Immortal Emperor's decree, no one is allowed to pass. Damn it. The Grand Mist Ancestor immediately understood the meaning of those words. He raised his head and looked at the side of the door. Indeed, there was another Immortal General guarding the side door. Thinking back to Xiaohua's glory when he entered the soaring cloud-side palace and his current predicament, the Grand Mist Ancestor gritted his teeth. However, he took a deep breath and regained his composure. His figure flashed as he brought Taoist Rider Crane and Anya Z to the side door. This old man is the Grand Mist Ancestor. I am here to see the Immortal Emperor. The Grand Mist Ancestor spoke politely, and the Immortal General guarding the door didn't make things difficult for him. He looked at the Grand Mist Ancestor from head to toe and moved to the side. However, just as the Grand Mist Ancestor passed through, the Immortal General raised his weapon and blocked Taoist Rider Crane and Anya Z. The Grand Mist Ancestor was displeased and said, "This is this old man's follower." Unfortunately, the Immortal General's face was as cold as stone. He didn't even look at the Grand Mist Ancestor, and only raised his weapon to block them outside the side door. "You wait here." The Grand Mist Ancestor was very decisive. After thinking for a while, he stepped into the side door of the soaring cloud-side palace. Taoist Master Rider Crane and Anya looked at each other in dismay. Both of them looked at each other and rejoiced. Their bodies fluttered, and they flew out of the side door for a short distance. Then they clasped their hands together and stood still in the air. Also, I thank everyone for supporting divinity cultivation. If everyone can enjoy this chapter, it will be the greatest gratification for the third place. At the same time, I will take this opportunity to call for more readers to subscribe to the original version of this book. The third place doesn't ask for everyone to subscribe to the previous chapters. I only hope that everyone can start from the last chapter. The story of the immortal world and the desolate era is in everyone's hands. The third place tearfully asks for subscriptions. If the number of subscriptions exceeds 1,000, the immortal world will be opened. If the number of subscriptions exceeds 1,000, the immortal world will be opened. If the number of subscriptions exceeds 100, the immortal world will be opened. If the number of subscriptions exceeds 1,000, the immortal world will be opened. How Xiaohua went against the light to become a sage completely depends on everyone. The third place thanks. Chapter 4672. At this moment, near the huge Lingyun side palace, millions of Aoranchi pillars were still roaring in the stalactite palace. Countless clouds condensed and flashed with a dazzling brilliance. This brilliance was like the sun and the moon, illuminating the entire space. However, where there was light, there was also darkness. The darkness was like the wrinkles of time, occasionally appearing where there was light. Within the wrinkles there would occasionally be many black spots. These black spots were either hidden in the void or in the darkness. They didn't emit any magic power fluctuations. They were really like black spots that couldn't be easily discovered. However, where the black spot was, the light was swallowed up by the wind of time. Strands of light that seemed to be hollowed out were produced in an uncanny manner. They were like flowers blooming in the multicolored light screen. When the layers of black spots gradually became denser, within the Aoranchi pillars, a fist-sized black shadow appeared. This shadow wasn't full, instead it was like a thin image. However, this shadow gradually elongated and could be seen clearly. Wasn't this the world-destroying strange insect that Xiaohua mentioned? Half of this strange insect's size was its head. There were 2 long antennae on its head, which were swaying at will. As the antennae swayed, the flake-like shadow strangely folded and extended in the light. After a while, the strange insect seemed to have swallowed the light, and its entire body began to bulge. However, it only bulged a few inches. In the middle of the strange worm's body, layers of grayish patches had just appeared when the entire body of the strange worm collapsed. Soon after, the shattered pieces transformed into even smaller illusionary figures that hurriedly seeped into the multicolored light. The halberd-like hind legs of each illusionary figure flashed with a bright light that was different from the multicolored light. The supreme experts of the 3 continents gathered in the Lingyun side palace to discuss how to resist the strange insect from the outer realm. They thought that the strange insect from the outer realm invaded the 3 continents from the boundary of the world. They didn't expect that the strange insect from the outer realm had invaded the 3 continents through the veins of the void. Now, it had already spread throughout the void of the 3 continents. Immortal Palace, Thunderclap Temple, Dragon Island, and the Great Holy Temple wanted to set up a defense line between the 3 continents and the 4 seas, but now the 3 continents had become a defenseless slaughterhouse. Immortal Emperor Go-chun was in charge of the side palace, but due to his carelessness, he didn't notice this anomaly. The Grand Mist Ancestor was even more unaware of this matter. At this time, he had already passed through the side door of the side palace, and was greeted by the sight of 5 majestic mountains towering under the blue dome of heaven. A vigorous feeling immediately rose from the bottom of his heart, as if his blood was boiling. The Grand Mist Ancestor opened his mouth and let out a long roar. His body suddenly expanded and turned into 2 black and white rays of light that shot towards the top of the thunderbolt where Xiaohua was. Xiaohua didn't say anything, but the lightning Taoist was a little displeased. He snorted coldly, and 100 zhonglong lightning bolt appeared in front of the Grand Mist Ancestor with a loud boom. Haha, Thunderbolt Immortal, are you welcoming me? The Grand Mist Ancestor laughed heartily and rubbed his hands together. Kacha! More than 10 black and white rays of light appeared in the space around him, and landed on the lightning bolt like stars surrounding the moon. It was very strange. Z. A sound similar to cold water falling into a pot of hot oil rang out. The black and white rays of light actually penetrated the lightning bolt, and turned into threads of light that completely entangled the lightning bolt. Amidst the crackling sound, the 100 zhonglong lightning bolt collapsed and disappeared. However, the moment the lightning bolt disappeared, a scarlet-red lightning bolt pounced out like a spirit snake, and slammed into the Grand Mist Ancestor's left shoulder with lightning speed. Boom! The golden light barrier around the Grand Mist Ancestor's body flickered and blocked the lightning. However, the Grand Mist Ancestor's body staggered as he came to a stop. The smug look on his face was replaced with shock, shame, and anger. Fellow Taoist Thunderbolt. The Grand Mist Ancestor stood there and lowered his head to look at the golden light on his left shoulder. What is the meaning of this? A brat who hasn't reached the peak of the Grand Ascension realm dares to stand shoulder to shoulder with me. The lightning Taoist didn't know any modesty and scolded without any trace of politeness. Xiaohua laughed and said, Fellow Taoist Grand Mist, although the lightning Taoist's words aren't pleasant to hear, he has good intentions. Don't forget, today you and I are guests at the High Cloudside Hall. If you want to sit down, I'm afraid you have to see Immortal Emperor Go-chun first, right? If you come here directly, it will be rude and make the Confucian cultivators, Buddhist sect, and demon races experts laugh at you. Damn it. The Grand Mist Ancestor cursed in his heart. Of course, he knew that he had to see Immortal Emperor Go-chun before entering the Lightning Mountain, but he didn't plan to sit down first. However, before he could get close, the Thunderbolt Immortal blocked his way. The Grand Mist Ancestor took a deep breath and cupped his hands towards the Lightning Taoist. I see, then this old man is wrong. This old man thanks fellow Taoist Thunderbolt for reminding me. The Grand Mist Ancestor then bowed towards the Scroll Mountain where Immortal Emperor Go-chun and Dongfang Qianghao were at. Grand Mist Ancestor greets the Immortal Emperor. Although the 5 mountains were quite far apart, the people and demons could see each other clearly under the sky. Immortal Emperor Go-chun saw the Grand Mist Ancestor's respectful attitude and said with a smile, Grand Mist Ancestor, we haven't seen each other for a long time. The Grand Mist Ancestor was stunned and puzzled. He asked curiously, how? Didn't I just see your majesty at the Longevity Town? Immortal Emperor Go-chun said meaningfully. The meeting at that time. Is it considered a meeting? This. The Grand Mist Ancestor didn't understand what Immortal Emperor Go-chun meant. Immortal Emperor Go-chun didn't dare to explain. He raised his hand, and the jade eye that the Grand Mist Ancestor took out appeared in his palm. Immortal Emperor Go-chun waved his hand disdainfully. The jade eye was carried by a cloud and slowly floated in front of the Grand Mist Ancestor. This emperor doesn't care to take out such an eyesore. Immortal Emperor Go-chun smiled faintly and raised his hand again. Another 2 jade eyes with 3 colors appeared out of nowhere. 2 clouds streaked across the sky, and the jade eyes were delivered to Xiaohua and the Grand Mist Ancestor respectively. When the Grand Mist Ancestor received the jade eyes and scanned them with his divine sense, a look of shock appeared on his face. He hurriedly raised his head, but he didn't look at Immortal Emperor Go-chun. Instead, He looked directly at Xiaohua. At this time, Xiaohua also raised his head with a meaningful smile on his face. His gaze collided with the Grand Mist ancestors in mid-air. It was just like the collision outside the Star Moon Palace in the blink of an eye. Damn it! The Grand Mist ancestor gritted his teeth. He seemed to have understood something from Xiaohua's gaze, and cursed inwardly. Black and white lights flashed in the Grand Mist ancestor's palm, and the jade eye instantly turned into nothingness. Not even a speck of dust was left behind. Xiaohua chuckled as he carefully placed the jade eye pearl into his bosom, and he retracted his warning gaze from the Grand Mist ancestor. Your Majesty, what is the meaning of this? The Grand Mist ancestor raised his head, and looked at Immortal Emperor Go Chun. This emperor has many meanings. Do you want to hear them one by one? At this point, Immortal Emperor Go Chun actually kept the Grand Mist ancestor in suspense. The Grand Mist ancestor nodded and replied, "That's right." First, Immortal Emperor Go Chun said, "This emperor wants to tell you not to play tricks in front of this emperor. Since you want to tell this emperor what it means to throw a rook to save the king, then this emperor will also tell you what it means to throw a brick to attract jade." The Grand Mist ancestor was about to vomit blood in his heart. He really regretted his action just now. Second, Immortal Emperor Go Chun said slowly, "This emperor wants to tell you that on this hidden immortal mainland, there is nothing that this emperor doesn't know. Don't think that you are doing things secretly, and that this emperor knows everything that you do. The reason you can come here is not because this emperor saw your sincerity and let you in. It is because Daoist Xiao of the Fortune Gate repeatedly let you in, saying that you are also a member of the Dao Gate, one of the cultivators of the three mainlands. Now that the three mainlands are facing the threat of destruction, you should be able to help. Therefore, this emperor let you in. Since you are willing to announce your power to the public, then this emperor might as well help you and pull your relationship with the Fortune Gate closer." "Yes, many thanks, Your Majesty. Your Majesty is still the most considerate." Although the Grand Mist ancestor was gritting his teeth, he could only swallow them down. Third, Immortal Emperor Go Chun continued, "Because before you entered the Lingyun Side Hall, this emperor's immortal palace, the Dragon Clan's Dragon Island, the Demonic Clan's Great Sage Hall, and the Buddhist sect's Thunder Sound Temple had already reached a consensus. Similarly, the Dao Gate will participate in the war against the alien insects as an independent force. Moreover, if we kill the alien insects, the Dao Gate will be able to establish a sect outside the Western Sea." "Really?" the Grand Mist ancestor asked in disbelief. Happiness seemed to have come too suddenly, and the Grand Mist ancestor couldn't take it anymore. Immortal Emperor Go Chun said unhappily, "This emperor has a mouth of gold and jade. How can I lie to you? Since your Dao Gate can develop as you wish, there is no need for you to hide your forces. Why don't you just take them out and be as open as the Fortune Gate?" Yes, I understand." The Grand Mist ancestor nodded repeatedly. However, Immortal Emperor Go Chun's words were like a bucket of cold water that extinguished the Grand Mist ancestor's fire. Immortal Emperor Go Chun continued, "Fourth, Daoist Xiao of the Fortune Gate is the leader of our Dao Gate. Since you want to establish a sect and establish the Sky-Bearing Palace, how can you go against Daoist Xiao? This emperor gave the jade eyes to him to remove the knot in your heart, so that you can work together better." Xiaohua knew that this was Immortal Emperor Go Chun's plan to drive a wedge between them, but he also benefited from it. He didn't say anything and just looked at the Grand Mist ancestor. Today, the Grand Mist ancestor was bullied miserably by Immortal Emperor Go Chun. The corner of his mouth twitched a few times, and before he could erase the shadow in his heart from the leader of the Dao Gate, he smiled and said, "Yes, Your Majesty's good intentions, I appreciate it. Previously, I didn't know Your Majesty's decree, so I took out the jade eyes. Since Your Majesty has already given the decree, I don't need to hide anything from Daoist Xiao." "That's good." Immortal Emperor Go Chun smiled, as if he was harmless to humans and animals. He continued, "Fifth, at this time, not to mention the Grand Mist ancestor, even Xiaohua and the others were stunned. They didn't expect Immortal Emperor Go Chun to say so many reasons, so everyone unconsciously pricked up their ears. Fifth, This emperor wants to tell you that not only is there nothing I don't know about in the hidden immortal continent, there is also nothing I can't do. Immortal Emperor Go Chen's tone suddenly turned cold as he said, in the past, this emperor was able to capture you. And today, this emperor will also capture you. Moreover, it's not that this emperor couldn't kill you that day. The reason why this emperor joined forces with the demon race and Buddhist sect to suppress you is not because your cultivation is too high, and we can't kill you, but because immortal. Immortal. Immortal? Immortal Emperor Go Chen's words were like a stick, hitting the Grand Mist Ancestor silly. He looked at Immortal Emperor Go Chen with a puzzled expression and asked curiously. At this time, the Grand Mist Ancestor's imposing manner when he entered the Ling Yun side palace had been dispelled by Immortal Emperor Go Chen as if it was nothing. Yes, immortal. Immortal Emperor Go Chen said coldly. Previously, because there was an immortal, this emperor wouldn't easily make a move on you. Now that the immortal has left, if you have any evil intentions, don't blame this emperor for being impolite. Boom. If the previous words were like cold water splashing on the face, Immortal Emperor Go Chen's words were like a thunderbolt. In an instant, the Grand Mist Ancestor fell from the sky into the abyss. In the time it took for a spark to fly off a flint, the Grand Mist Ancestor went through his encounter with Su Ji, and all the various signs pointed to Su Ji. Was the immortal mentioned by Immortal Emperor Go Chen? Why didn't I think of it? The Grand Mist Ancestor muttered in a low voice, and his face was ashen. Since he is an immortal, why can't he help our Dao sect? Why can't he? Can't he? The Grand Mist Ancestor said can't a few times, until finally, he raised his head angrily, looked at Xiaohua, and shouted, Xiaohua, do you know about this? The Grand Mist Ancestor's eyes were filled with anger, but Xiaohua could clearly see the vicious resentment in that anger. Fairy Xingyu had clearly described the Grand Mist Ancestor's character, so how could Xiaohua not know that the Grand Mist Ancestor's anger was just an act? The viciousness behind that anger was his true intention. Why would I tell the truth to a person who has already lost his chance? Xiaohua replied lazily. Since this person has already given up on his promise and thinks that he can hold up the sky with one hand, why would others still help him? While speaking, Xiaohua turned to look at Immortal Emperor Go Chen again. Since Fairy Xingyu understood the Grand Mist Ancestor's character, how could Immortal Emperor Go Chen not understand? Immortal Emperor Go Chen had not mentioned the word immortal in front of the Eastern Sea Dragon King and Dongfang Qianghao, so why did he mention it when the Grand Mist Ancestor appeared? Obviously, Immortal Emperor Go Chen wanted to tell the Grand Mist Ancestor that the immortal was with Xiaohua before he left. It was very likely that the immortal had left many things for Xiaohua, and these things could have originally belonged to the Grand Mist Ancestor. If it was someone else, they might not have been fooled. However, although the Grand Mist Ancestor was already a cultivator of the 9th level of origin energy, his character would not change. He would not judge others by his own standards. He could only be the kind of person who would rather betray the world than let the world betray him. Therefore, if the Grand Mist Ancestor hated Xiaohua very much before, it was probably 100% now. Sure enough, the Grand Mist Ancestor closed his eyes slightly after hearing Xiaohua's words. Then he took a deep breath and bowed respectfully in one direction. Then he bowed deeply to Xiaohua and said, "Thank you, fellow Taoist Xiao, for accompanying him on his last journey." You're welcome, you're welcome." Xiaohua waved his sleeves and said indifferently, "This is what I should do." Finally, the Grand Mist Ancestor bowed again to Immortal Emperor Go Chen and said, "I will also write your Majesty's words." Haha, no need to be so polite. Immortal Emperor Go Chen looked at the Grand Mist Ancestor's performance and laughed with satisfaction. "You and I are going to form an alliance to fight against the world-destroying strange insect. How can we not be honest? Lightning Sage, may I take a seat?" After losing his composure, the Grand Mist Ancestor regained his fierce and ruthless demeanor and asked the Lightning Sage calmly, "What does it have to do with whether you want to sit or not?" The Lightning Sage did not give the Grand Mist Ancestor any face. "Many thanks, fellow Taoists." The Grand Mist Ancestor smiled faintly and landed on the Lightning Mountain peak. Layers of black and white light emerged from his body and intertwined to form a cloud that resembled a praying mat. The Grand Mist Ancestor sat down cross-legged on the praying mat. Okay. Xiaohua looked at the Grand Mist Ancestor's indifference, and a trace of vigilance appeared in his heart. He said, now that the other branch of our Dao Gate has arrived at the Lingyun Side Hall, it's time to discuss how to fight against the world-destroying strange insect. Daoist Xiao. The Grand Mist Ancestor smiled and said, when everyone was discussing, I wasn't around. How will our Dao Gate develop outside the Western Sea? How will we defend against the world-destroying strange insect outside the Western Sea? Xiaohua thought for a moment and summarized the previous discussion. In the end he said, as long as our Dao Gate can block the world-destroying strange insect outside the Western Sea and prevent it from harming the sea tribes and invading the inner sea, our Dao Gate will be able to develop freely outside the Western Sea. The Grand Mist Ancestor nodded slightly. Previously, this old man was afraid that the Immortal Palace would use our Dao Gate as a puppet. Now it seems that they are quite sincere. With your sky-bearing palace's little strength, I wouldn't even bother to use it even if you were in front of me. The Immortal Emperor snorted in disdain. The Maitreya Buddha on the Buddha lotus said, Namo Maitreya Buddha, since the Great Sage Hall, Dragon Island, Immortal Palace, Fortune Gate, Sky-bearing Palace, Thunder Temple, and my tiny exquisite temple have all come to an agreement, let's discuss the specific areas we will be defending. When the Maitreya Buddha finished speaking, the Dipankara archaic Buddha spat out a Buddha lotus. The Buddha lotus flew into midair, and Buddha light shone on it as it expanded, instantly transforming into a huge image of the Nirvana world. Then the Dipankara archaic Buddha raised his hand and pointed. Thousands of radiances were born from his finger, and landed on the edges of the Nirvana world. The Maitreya Buddha world-honored one did not hesitate. He also raised his hand. Swish! Countless flashes of Buddha dust appeared, and the magnificent scenes of the Buddhist countries appeared from within the flashes of Buddha dust. The flashes of Buddha dust were like dust. They drifted to the edge of a small part of the southern part of Nirvana, and landed quietly. After the Buddha dust landed on the ground, the Buddha lights retracted, becoming indifferent. It was even gentler than the Dipankara archaic Buddha's Buddha lights. Sigh. The Dipankara archaic Buddha couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Shock appeared on his face, and he pressed his palms together. Namo Amitba. Amitba, Amitba. Congratulations, junior apprentice brother, for comprehending Buddhism so deeply. Namo Maitreya Buddha. The Maitreya Buddha also chanted and said, everyone is a Buddha. Spirits are Buddhas. Objects are Buddhas. Congratulations, World Lord. The Namo Maitreya Samantabhadra's face was filled with joy, and he immediately bowed. The Namo Wisdom Manjushri Bodhisattva hesitated for a moment before bowing and congratulating as well. Even if the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas exhausted all the Sea Clan and Dragon Clan, we wouldn't be able to protect the borders. Therefore, with the support of Dragon Island, the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas protected these places. As he spoke, Ao Qian raised his dragon claw and pointed at the East Sea, South Sea and North Sea. Waves of light rippled out from all directions. Indeed, the waves weren't shorter than the ones set up by the Buddhists, demons, and Confucian cultivators. However, compared to the surface of the sea, it was much smaller. I've discussed with the Dragon Palace of the Three Seas. Instead of setting up defenses so far away and stretching the battle line so far, why don't we shrink it a little? Aoe raised his hand and pointed, causing those directions to shrink. Although it seemed to be stretched, the defenses of the various races of the three continents on both sides of the line of defense protruded to the front. Aoe said helplessly, however, if we shrink it, everyone's line of defense will be in front of the Dragon Palace of the Three Seas. If strange insects attack us, we'll be attacked from the back. Then, Immortal Emperor Go Chen pondered for a while and answered, why don't we retreat all the lines of defense, and let the humans and demons in front of the lines of defense move to the back of the lines of defense? Amitba. It's easy to set up defenses, but it's difficult to retreat. The Dipankara archaic Buddha's face became even more bitter. Let's take a look at the West Sea first. Immortal Emperor Go-Chen looked at Xiaohua and the primordial chaos ancestor and said, "Then we'll discuss it again." "All right." Xiaohua nodded and asked Ao Qian, "How's the West Sea Dragon Palace's defenses? How many oceanic races and dragons do they have?" Ao Qian raised his hand and pointed, causing a similar wave to rise. However, this wave was pitifully short. Then, Ao Qian gave a simple explanation of the West Sea Dragon Palace's defenses. Xiaohua pinched his chin and stared in the direction of the West Sea. He seemed to be deep in thought, as if he was thinking about how to set up the defenses. He also seemed to be looking at another place through the West Sea. The primordial chaos ancestor looked at Xiaohua and smiled. "While Dao Master Xiao is thinking, I'll throw out a brick to attract jade." With that said, the primordial chaos ancestor raised his hand above the cloud below him. A ray of light turned into a flying sword and shot into the West Sea. Splash. The sound of water splashing could be heard as a small defensive line connected to the West Sea Dragon Palace's side. Looking at the defensive line that was much smaller than the West Sea Dragon Palace's, the primordial chaos ancestor spoke humbly, but there was a hint of pride in his tone as he said, "This old man's sky-bearing palace is lacking in manpower. I'm afraid this is all I can do. And it's already not bad." Immortal Emperor Go-Chen nodded and said, "You didn't hide anything this time. This old man doesn't dare to hide anything in the face of a great enemy." The primordial chaos ancestor laughed and said, "Now, it's time to see the Fortune Gate's strength." Xiaohua still didn't make a move. He only frowned as he looked at the water surface. After half the time it takes to brew a cup of tea, Xiaohua raised his hand and pointed at the sky-bearing palace's side. Shua. Waves that were several times larger than the sky-bearing palace's size appeared. The primordial chaos ancestor's expression changed slightly when he heard Xiaohua say, "The Heavenly Paradise River Dragon tribe led by Jiang Hong is proficient in water. They don't have a lot of people, but they can cover a large area. We can let them set up their defenses here." Heavenly Paradise River Dragon tribe? The primordial chaos ancestor's eyes turned rapidly as he looked at the waves in a daze. Then, Xiaohua pointed at the water surface again. The primordial chaos ancestor secretly let out a sigh of relief, but Xiaohua said, "The dragon tribe led by Ao Zhan is more capable. They can set up their defenses here." Ao Zhan? Ao Zhan? The primordial chaos ancestor obviously didn't know who Ao Zhan was. However, when he saw Ao Qian nodding his head, he knew that Ao Zhan was also an unusual member of the dragon tribe. His expression turned even uglier. "As for my Fortune Gate's disciples," Xiaohua raised his hand and waved it. A ray of light shot out like a bolt of lightning and landed on the surface of the sea. A huge wave rose like the rising tide, covering the entire West Sea's edge. Xiaohua said proudly as everyone looked at each other, "They can set up their defenses here." The primordial chaos ancestor's face was ashen as the jealousy in his heart grew stronger. He could easily tell that the so-called Fortune Gate's disciples were not nurtured by Xiaohua alone. They must be Suji's painstaking efforts. And these disciples that could make the three mainland's forces tremble in fear should be his. "Xiaolongshi," Aoi blurted out, Are you sure? Your Fortune Gate actually has such strength?" Xiaohua shrugged and smiled. "This Xiao also didn't want to expose our strength, but my Fortune Gate is different from everyone else. We don't have any foundation in the three mainlands, so we can go all out without any backup. These troops are all of my Fortune Gate's disciples. Moreover, if my Fortune Gate doesn't put in effort, how can the West Sea's immortal mountains belong to my Fortune Gate?" "And that's true." Immortal Emperor Go-Chen nodded cautiously. "What Xiao Lei said is true. If I didn't worry about the immortal palace, I would have sent out my troops to set up the defenses. It would have been the same." "Your Majesty is joking." Xiaohua looked at Dongfang Qianghao and then at Immortal Emperor Go-Chen. He smiled and said, "Whether it is the immortal palace or the four great families, any one of them would have more disciples than my Fortune Gate. Forget it, let's not talk about this." Ao Qian waved his hand and said, "Previously, this old man didn't know that the Fortune Gate's disciples were so strong, so I limited the Fortune Gate's disciples to the West Sea. Now, it seems like Xiao Longshi. Can you transfer Jiang Hong's Heavenly Cave River Dragon tribe to the South Sea to assist the South Sea Dragon Palace? Xiao Hua immediately understood Ao Qian's intention. He was worried that Jiang Hong would take the opportunity to take down the West Sea Dragon Palace. Unfortunately, how could Xiao Hua let him succeed? Xiao Hua smiled and said, Jiang Hong has been to the South Sea Dragon Palace before, and there is some conflict with the South Sea. If the Heavenly Cave River Dragon tribe were to set up defenses there, it would definitely cause a conflict. Why don't we send the other Fortune Gate's disciples to the South Sea? Xiao Hua waved his hand, and a ray of light flew into the South Sea, causing waves to surge. Ao Qian opened his mouth, wanting to transfer Jiang Hong to the North Sea. However, when he thought about Jiang Hong's grudge with the North Sea, he shut his mouth. He wanted to transfer Jiang Hong to the East Sea, but the East Sea was too far away from the West Sea. If he were to ask, it would be too harsh. Set up the defensive lines and withdraw. The Dipankara archaic Buddha looked at them and said. Then all the Exalt Realm cultivators waved their hands and withdrew their defensive lines. When all the defensive lines formed an irregular circle, they stopped. Yes. The Gochen Immortal Emperor nodded and said, Let's do it this way. Let's hurry up and send a message to our people to retreat. Amitba, Amitba. The Dipankara archaic Buddha glanced at the Maitreya Buddha and raised his hand, causing a ray of Buddha light to enter the void. At the same time, the Immortal Emperor and the golden-winged Great Rock sent a message to their disciples waiting outside the Lingyun side hall. Then, the Buddhists, Taoists, Confucians, and dragons discussed the details in detail, and exchanged a few opinions. Aoi looked at the defensive circle that had taken shape and frowned. Everyone, our races are now working together to resist the strange insects in the outer realm. We must cooperate and help each other. After all, the alien insects might not attack at the same time. We can concentrate our forces to kill the alien insects that appear at a certain location. However, our four seas dragon palaces have ancient teleportation formations that are connected to each other, while the three continents don't have any teleportation formations. It's fine for us to fly around, but those disciples are a little troublesome. We can only support them from nearby. If they're slightly further away, a huge flaw might appear. Our demon race's Great Sage Hall has a Sage Hall passageway that can be used only. The golden-winged Great Rock pondered and said, However, it's only limited to the 1,000 demons' sacred realm. This won't affect the battle much. Without a teleportation formation, it's also troublesome to send messages. The Gochen Immortal Emperor frowned. Our Immortal Palace's Heavenly Secrets Hall has some tricks up its sleeve. However, it's only limited to the hidden Immortal Continent. If the three continents want to send messages or provide support, they can only do so through the Four Seas Dragon Palace's teleportation formations. Amitba. The Dipankara archaic Buddha echoed. Our Thunderclap Temple has the same problem. Although those who attain the Bodhisattva Buddha fruit and above can borrow the Thunder Temple's Buddha light, there are only a few of them. Namo Maitreya. The Maitreya Buddha's world sovereign clasped his palms together and said, Our exquisite temple has some guardian heavenly kings who know how to set up a teleportation formation. However, their teleportation formation collapses easily and can only be used temporarily. Moreover, the distance is limited. Although our Confucian cultivator's 10,000 miles sound transmission can't send us far, Dongfang Qianghao suggested, we can send more disciples to connect them. The problem of sending messages should be solved. While everyone and the demon race were discussing, Xiao Hua was discussing with the Thunderbolt Master in his mind. After a while, Xiao Hua had an idea in his mind and said, Everyone, our Fortune Gate's disciples can set up short-distance teleportation formations on the three continents for disciples. Moreover, our Fortune Gate also has teleportation formations that connect the hidden Immortal Continent, the Pure Land of Bliss, and the 1,000 Demons' Sacred Realm. As soon as Xiao Hua's words came out, the entire place fell into a dead silence. Even a drop of water could be heard clearly. What? You don't believe me? The corners of Xiao Hua's mouth curled up into a faint smile. Sai, of course we believe you. Immortal Emperor Gochen sighed and said, I've been waiting for you to say that. Xiaohua laughed and said, so everyone has already thought of that person. That person Xiaohua was referring to was naturally Suji and Fairy Xingyu. Of course. Aoi smiled and said, if it wasn't for the teleportation formation that connected the 3 continents, how could Jai Xinglu send messages so quickly? Moreover, on this day of the Dao Gate's annihilation, if there's anyone who can set up a teleportation formation, it can only be that person. Xiaohua was secretly delighted and said with a smile, since everyone already understands, then I don't have to explain. To use the teleportation formation on the 3 continents, it costs 100 top-grade origin stones every time. Our fortune gate will help each continent build a teleportation formation, and the materials will be provided by you. Moreover, after it's completed every time. Master Xiaohua. Dongfeng Qianghao smiled bitterly and said, Master Xiaohua, have you fallen into a money grubber? The previous order was already too much, and I didn't say anything. Now we're building a teleportation formation for the sake of all living beings. Does Master Xiaohua not have any mercy in his heart? Aren't you the Namo Great Compassionate Great Guanyin Bodhisattva? Alright, 1 top-grade origin stone every time. How about it? Xiaohua replied with a smile. We can't let our fortune gate disciples work for free, right? Of course not. This is a matter of merit, and we can't ask for wages. The Dipankara archaic Buddha also smiled. All the exalts present were happy, because the construction of the teleportation formation had solved their biggest problem. However, the primordial chaos ancestor who was sitting cross-legged beside Xiaohua fell silent again. Needless to say, he resented Suji for giving these things that originally belonged to him to Xiaohua. Otherwise, he would be the one enjoying the benefits in the Lingyun side hall right now. After the discussion, Xiaohua was about to instruct the Thunderbolt Hermit to take the Kunlun mirror and send the Fortune Gate disciples who were capable of setting up the teleportation formation on the Shenhua continent. However, just as he said that, Immortal Emperor Gaochen smiled and said, Master Xiaohua, there's no need to rush. The Lingyun side hall isn't within the Immortal Palace's territory. The time is the same as the hidden Immortal Continent. Alright. Xiaohua thought for a while and knew that the Fortune Gate disciples could prepare the materials needed to set up the teleportation formation on the Shenhua continent. He nodded and took out a few jade eyes and passed them to Immortal Emperor Gaochen, the golden-winged great rock, and the Dipankara archaic Buddha. He said, these are the materials needed to set up the teleportation formation. Please prepare the materials according to the distance and location of the teleportation formation. When my Fortune Gate disciples arrive, you can start setting up the formation. Sure. The 3 exalts took the jade eyes and used their divine abilities to look at them. Then, they passed them to the disciples waiting outside the Lingyun side hall, and hurriedly sent them out. At this point, the Taoist Gate's foundation in the 3 continents was barely established. When a sect wanted to integrate into the entire world, other than strength, it would be useful. Only when there was value in using each other would there be meaning in their existence. Although Xiaohua was powerful, and the Fortune Gate's army was a force to be reckoned with in the 3 continents, the Immortal Palace, Thunder Temple, Great Sacred Hall, and Dragon Island all had their own forces. However, building a teleportation formation wasn't something that other sects could do. Only the Fortune Gate could do it. It wasn't hard to imagine that the Taoist Gate could only stay in the West Sea for now. However, after the teleportation formation was completed and the Taoist Gate killed the world-destroying monstrous worm, the 3 continents would have to rely on the teleportation formation. Whether it was the monster race or the human race, they would all think of the Fortune Gate. Of course, there was also the possibility of the Taoist Gate's Grand Ascension stage experts like Xiaohua, so the possibility of that happening was greatly reduced. Seeing how Xiaohua and the Fortune Gate were so highly regarded, the Grand Mist Ancestor became even more jealous. However, he still forced a smile on his face and said, Thank you, Taoist Xiao. With the teleportation formation, our Taoist Gate can establish itself in the 3 continents. No, we should thank that senior. Xiaohua also smiled and said, although he didn't directly let the Taoist Gate take root in the 3 continents, He has already put in a lot of effort. This Xiao is merely standing on his shoulder. Yes, yes. The Grand Mist Ancestor nodded in agreement. Everyone. At this time, Immortal Emperor Gaochen raised his voice and said, "Today's discussion ends here. Everyone, take a look and see if there is anything missing. If there isn't, I invite the Empress to hold a banquet at the Jade Lake. We won't rest until we are drunk." Since the discussion had reached this point, there was naturally nothing left out. The venerables shook their heads. Immortal Emperor Gaochen smiled and said, "Everyone, please wait a moment. I invite the Empress to hold a banquet at the Jade Lake." Chapter 46-73. As he spoke, Immortal Emperor Gochen's imperial robe shook and a golden throne appeared below him. The moment the throne appeared, a powerful imperial aura gushed out from the top of the mountain. Dongfang Qianghao, who was standing next to Immortal Emperor Gochen, was surprised. Immortal Emperor Gochen glanced at Dongfang Qianghao and slapped the throne. A golden light turned into the shape of a dragon python and disappeared into the void. However, a moment later, there was a thunderous rumble and a giant golden bell appeared in the sky. The golden bell was covered in inscriptions, and strands of purple gas came out from the inscriptions. They were like tiny earthworms swimming in the golden light. Under the golden bell, there was a yellow light that fell into the void and covered the entire Lingyun side palace. What a guy, the vast void bell. Aoi saw the bell and narrowed his eyes. He seemed to be mocking himself. Old Gochen, you actually took the vast void bell from the Immortal Palace to the Lingyun side palace to set up a defense. Fortunately, I didn't have any bad intentions towards you. Otherwise, I'm afraid I wouldn't even be able to leave the Lingyun side palace. Don't have the heart to harm others, but don't let your guard down. Immortal Emperor Gochen replied with a smile. I've been taken advantage of several times, so I have to learn from my mistakes. Dongfang Qianghao's face didn't even turn red. He bowed and said, Your Majesty is a wise ruler. Perhaps some people were jealous of you before, but now that the world-destroying strange insect is besieged, Your Majesty's strategy is to focus on the foundation of the Confucian cultivators. Once we kill the world-destroying strange insect and return peace to the hidden immortal continent, who will not listen to Your Majesty? Haha, well said. Immortal Emperor Gochen stood up and laughed. We Confucian cultivators emphasize on political and martial arts. I have no objections to ruling the world through political means. However, if I don't use troops, the 100 schools of thought seem to have forgotten that the Sun clan is a martial arts clan. This battle will let you all see my martial arts strategy. With that, Immortal Emperor Gochen waved his sleeve. Dong dong dong. 9 bell chimes resounded and a vast wave of golden light rushed towards the Lingyun side palace. The entire Lingyun side palace turned transparent in an instant. Even the mountain peak under Xiaohua and the others turned into debris. Caw-caw. Behind Immortal Emperor Gochen, the sound of birds chirping could be heard. Xiaohua looked up and saw that the sky was giving birth to auspicious signs. Colorful immortal birds were descending from the sky. Behind them were several hundred immortal beasts. Xiaohua had never seen most of them before. Whoosh, whoosh. High up in the sky, the cloud jade necklace and immortal birds and immortal beasts rushed out. Below Xiaohua and the others, the crisscrossing ground changed again. Waves of blue ripples came out from the void and covered the entire ground. Immortal Emperor Gochen patted his golden throne and smiled. Everyone, follow me to the jade pool. Hiss. Immortal Emperor Gochen's figure followed the golden throne and rushed into the cloud jade necklace. The blue ripples created waves as the sound of bells came out from the clouds. Several hundred female officials held various kinds of music and channeled their true energy to play. And in another direction, several thousand female generals also flew out from the clouds. These female generals all had weapons and danced to the music. Their graceful dance was not hidden by their armor. On the contrary, it exuded a mighty and murderous aura, making it even more pleasing to the eyes. Xiaohua and the others flew for a while. Whoosh. The vast void bell in the sky disappeared. Layers of jade necklace fluttered down like willow catkins. When they reached the top of everyone's head, they turned into specks of light. Within these specks of light, the entire space became transparent. Boom, boom, boom. 3 golden pillars of righteous energy appeared in the north, roaring as they pierced through the heavens and the earth. Outside the pillars of righteous energy, thousands of chains of inscriptions rushed out from below like dragons, surrounding the pillars of righteous energy. At the same time, the fragrance of the Confucian cultivator's destiny turned into a layer of fine peony flowers in the air. These peony flowers had different colors, and their fragrances were competing with each other in terms of beauty. What was special was that there was an unyielding and proud aura coming from these peony flowers. Whoosh! The runic chains rushed to the end of the sky and turned into countless scrolls, writing brushes, scrolls, and even flowers falling down from the sky. In this magnificent scene of the mortal world, a golden peony and a pink peony bloomed amidst hundreds of flowers. At the spot where the pink peony bloomed, the shadow of another golden throne appeared. The Eastern Sea Empress was wearing a palace robe, and sat on it with great majesty. The moment her figure appeared, Immortal Emperor Go Chen's golden throne also swayed, and turned into a golden light that fell into the other peony. The Celestial Emperor and Empress sat down. Clang! With a soft sound, the originally transparent space immediately lit up. Among the hundreds of flowers, Princess Zixia, Princess Qing Qing, Princess Miao Miao, and the others appeared. Even Tai Bai Jinxing, Heavenly King Qingyu, Heavenly King Fuyu, Heavenly King Sun Jian, and the other generals and ministers appeared. Roar! The light came out with a bestial roar. An auspicious beast similar to a qilin flew out from the void. This beast's body was transparent and countless runes condensed into words. Finally, they turned into scrolls that rotated inside the beast's body. Even the beast's 4 hooves were in the shape of writing brushes and inkstones. When the auspicious beast arrived at the spot where the flowers bloomed, it exploded again. Countless ingots, copper coins, and scrolls flew all over the sky. Namo Amitba. Seeing that the Confucian cultivators had settled down, the Dipankara archaic Buddha world exalted chanted a Buddhist mantra, and took a step forward to the west. Following the Dipankara archaic Buddha world exalted's figure, the Maitreya Buddha world exalted, the Manjushri Bodhisattva, and the Samantabhadra Bodhisattva followed closely behind. Clank, clank, clank. Countless sounds of knocking wooden fish resounded from the void in the west. Along with the sounds of Sanskrit chanting, layers of Buddhist lights fell from the sky like a heavenly river. Wherever the Buddhist lights fell, the silhouettes of countless kind men and women were revealed. Heavenly flowers flew out from their foreheads and circled around them. Similar to the jade dew flowers of the Yaotai mountain, a Buddha statue sat on each of these flowers. Although each Buddha statue had a different appearance, and some of them were even blurry, these Buddha statues all had their palms pressed together as they bowed towards the Dipankara archaic Buddha world exalted, and the Maitreya Buddha world exalted. Dang. When the 2 revered sages' 9 lotus thrones appeared and sat on them, the 2 bodhisattvas also sat cross-legged on the lotus thrones. Another Buddhist bell rang, and Buddhist lotuses appeared where the heavenly flowers fell. Sitting or standing on the Buddhist lotuses were the disciples of the Buddhist sect. Ka. Almost at the same time as the Dipankara archaic Buddha world exalted took a step forward, the golden-winged great rock let out a clear cry and flapped its wings, flying towards the east. The profound armored Pentaceratops also revealed its draconic form and followed behind it. Although the 2 great sages' demonic bodies were several thousand feet in size, when they landed in the air, they only looked like ordinary demonic beasts. Just as the 2 great sages landed in the east, countless starry and moonlight pillars fell from the sky, enveloping the entire east. As the starry and moonlight pillars rumbled, clouds of starry dust rose like clouds. Within the starry dust, starry phenomena flickered. Then dozens of starry phenomena collided with each other. The images of the demon race great sages who had participated in the Jade Pool gathering were displayed within the starry and moonlight pillars. Woo! Under the starry and moonlight pillars, within the Jade Pool's jade-green ripples, a loud whimper resounded. 2 stars broke through the sky and landed below the golden-winged great rock, and the profound armored Pentaceratops. When the golden-winged great rock retracted its wings, the profound armored Pentaceratops coiled its body. Bam! 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 Crisp noises resounded again. The demon race's demon kings flickered with starry brilliance, revealing themselves near the two great sages. Haha, Dragon Master Xiao. The remaining AoE looked towards the south and smiled. Before the Jade Pool gathering, we had invited the Dallas Gate to take a seat. If you don't mind, why don't you sit together with my Dragon Island? No need. Xiao Hua smiled faintly. Since my Taoism has come to the Jade Pool gathering, how can we not have a seat? This is not how the Immortal Palace treats its guests. I believe that His Majesty Immortal Emperor will not favor one and discriminate against the other. Haha. Aoi let out a long laugh, and his dragon body also spread out. Boom. The same loud noise resounded from beneath the jade pool's jade-green ripples. A huge water pillar soared into the sky. Countless water splashes swayed within the water pillar, and within the water splashes, there were tens of thousands of sparkling and translucent strands. If one looked carefully, each strand of translucent strands looked like a crystal dragon. Waves of dense dragon aura seeped out from the water pillar. Not only that, when the water pillar soared into the sky in the south collapsed as well. Countless essence chi of heaven and earth turned into crystal lights that were like children's arms and rushed down. Before they touched the water pillar, they exploded again. Whoosh! Whoosh! In the whistling of the wind, the phantoms of the five elements primordial beasts, azure dragon, white tiger, black tortoise, vermilion bird, and Qilin, appeared majestically in the light and shadow. Roar! Aoi let out a loud roar. His dragon body was supported by the water pillar. Behind him, the Lord of the East Sea, Ao Qian, also landed. Boom! 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 Next, hundreds of water splashes gushed out from the surroundings of the water pillar. Many dragon generals also entered from outside the Lingyun side hall. Seeing the followers of the Exalts following them in, the primordial mist ancestor felt bitter. He knew that with Immortal Emperor Gaoqin's temper, he would definitely not allow the riding crane Daoist and the Dark Night Child to enter. Although Xiao Hua did not bring any disciples with him when he entered, all the Exalts knew that Xiao Hua had the Kunlun mirror in his hands. Within the Kunlun immortal realm, there were Xiao Hua's disciples. After Xiao Hua sat down, he could bring as many disciples as he wanted. What about the primordial mist ancestor? In the bustling Jade Pool gathering, he was the only one sitting alone in the sky-bearing palace. Even if he participated in the Jade Pool gathering, he would still be a laughing stock. The primordial mist ancestor could endure humiliation in front of Immortal Emperor Gaoqin, the golden-winged great rock, and the Dipankara archaic Buddha. However, he could not lose face in front of the four sects disciples. In the future, if this matter was brought up, his sky-bearing palace's disciples would not be able to raise their heads. Therefore, the primordial mist ancestor made a prompt decision and hurriedly sent a sound transmission to Xiao Hua. Daoist Xiao. Oh, what's wrong? Xiao Hua, who had always been oblivious to humiliation, replied in bewilderment. Seeing that we are all Taoism cultivators, could you not let your Fortune Gates disciples out? Although the primordial mist ancestor's tone was pleading, his heart was already filled with resentment towards Xiao Hua. Oh, why? Xiao Hua did not bring any Fortune Gates disciples with him. He did not think of letting a few unfamiliar Shenhua continent's disciples out. However, he still asked in confusion. However, he only asked a single question before he immediately understood. He rolled his eyes and said, "This Xiao understands now. However, when this Xiao brought my disciples here, I made it clear that I wanted them to experience the Kunlun immortal realm. I can't possibly extinguish my Fortune Gates disciples' desire just because of Daoist Zhao's words, right? And this one will compensate the Fortune Gates disciples." When the primordial mist ancestor saw Immortal Emperor Gaoqin looking in their direction, he hurriedly replied, "As long as Daoist Xiao agrees to this one's condition." Well said. Xiao Hua stroked his chin as he pondered inwardly. He really did not understand why the primordial mist ancestor valued face so much. However, he also did not understand what kind of extortion the primordial mist ancestor would accept. After a while, Xiao Hua sent a sound transmission to the primordial mist ancestor. "How about this? My Fortune Gate does not lack any origin stones, spiritual herbs, and other things. If you have any heavenly treasures, Why don't you give them to this Xiao? Heavenly treasures? The primordial mist ancestor almost fainted. He angrily said, Daoist Xiao, this old man only has one request. Whether your disciples come to the Jade Lake gathering or not, what effect does it have on them? Why are you asking for so much from the start? A few heavenly treasures? Aren't you afraid of biting your tongue? All right, forget about a few. Xiaohua smiled and said, if you have wood, water, or water origin stones, why don't you take them out? This Xiao will agree to your request. The primordial mist ancestor's face flushed red. He turned his head and ignored Xiaohua. He looked at the rippling waves of the Jade Lake, as if there were female officials coming out of their baths. All right. Xiaohua saw that there was no hope, and he could only say, this Xiao remembers that you have some lost refining techniques of my Dao Gate. Just take them out and let this Xiao see. This can be considered as spreading the glory of my Dao Gate's techniques. The primordial mist ancestor coldly snorted. He raised his hand and flicked out a jade eye from his sleeve, then lowered his head again. Xiaohua beamed with joy as he received the jade eye. He casually sent it to the fortune gate on Shenhua continent. The current Shenhua continent was flourishing, and there were many cultivators. Who knew how many Dao Gates experts would be born with this jade eye? Immortal Emperor Gochen naturally didn't know that Xiaohua had gained a small advantage. Seeing that the primordial mist ancestor was no longer speaking, he raised his voice and said, Lightning Master Xiao, you are my immortal palace's lightning master. If you don't mind, you can also sit in my immortal palace. Many thanks for your kindness, Your Majesty. Xiaohua replied. This Xiao is also the Guanyin Bodhisattva of the Buddhism sect. How about this Xiao go to the Buddhism sect? If Guanyin Bodhisattva comes, this seat will welcome you. The Dipankara archaic Buddha said with a smile. However, this smile contained a hint of bitterness. After all, the 99 feet golden body of the first Guanyin Bodhisattva of the Buddhism sect in the hidden immortal continent was actually a Taoism Mahayana. Right at this moment, the golden-winged great rock's voice resounded like thunder. He exclaimed, Taoist Xiao, you are the Dragon Island's Dragon Master, the Immortal Palace's Lightning Master, and the Buddhism sect's Guanyin Bankara. Why, haven't you cultivated my demon race's martial arts? How about this? This sage will also give you the title of Demon Master. This way, you will be the master of the four sects, the lord of a sect. TSK. Xiaohua flicked his sleeves and said, Demon Master, why does it sound so awkward? This Xiao isn't of the demon race, and I don't understand the demon race's martial arts. Why should I talk about Demon Master? It's better not to mention it. Seeing Xiaohua joking around with the other exalts, especially after hearing that Xiaohua had so many identities, Princess Zixia, who was sitting among the peony flowers, was already mesmerized. Such a man, who stood at the peak of the 3 continents and came looking for her on 7-colored auspicious clouds. What regrets did she have in this life? During the Jade Pool banquet, Taoism also had a seat. However, it hasn't been used for many years. Today, I will open it for you. Looking at Xiaohua's high-spirited appearance, the East Sea Empress was also full of joy. As she spoke, she raised her hand and took out a phoenix hairpin from her hair bun. Then threw it into the jade pool. The phoenix hairpin turned into a stream of light and crashed into the jade pool like lightning. Boom. In the south of the jade pool, near the water pillar where the second elder of the dragon tribe was sitting, an earth-shattering sound rang out. The blue waves were torn apart, and a non-oval vortex appeared in the crack. The vortex became bigger and bigger, and finally condensed into a black hole that was thousands of feet wide. In this black hole, mysterious fluctuations spurted out like breathing. Immediately, the 5 elements primordial beasts, which were originally hovering near the dragon tribe, found the source of the fluctuations and flew over. Boom, boom, boom. Immediately after, a huge crack appeared in the void, and hundreds of spiritual chi of heaven and earth crashed into the black hole like a hurricane. Roar. An inexplicable beast roar came from the black hole, and then a wild aura, an unyielding will, and a rebellious spirit overflowed from the black hole. This. Xiaohua sensed the aura and was quite puzzled. Moreover, This aura was extremely vast, and its spirit was also very similar to the heaven-defying spirit of the Tao Gate. He couldn't help but stare at the black hole in astonishment. Boom. After the aura passed, another pillar of 7-colored light gushed out. Within the light, one could see that a dark golden throne with an ancient design was revealed. Buzz. The moment this throne appeared, even the golden thrones below Immortal Emperor Go Chun and the Eastern Sea Empress began to vibrate. At the same time, the silhouette of a dragon throne appeared below Dragon King Ao Qian's body. Countless gazes fell on this throne. A domineering aura that could pierce the heavens emanated from the throne, enveloping an area of thousands of feet. The Grand Mist Throne. The Grand Mist Throne. The Grand Mist Ancestor couldn't help but exclaim. Our Tao Gate's Grand Mist Throne really did fall into the Immortal Palace. Xiaohua glanced at the Grand Mist Ancestor from the corner of his eyes. Seeing the realization on his face, he finally understood where the Grand Mist Ancestor's Tao name came from. Fuck, this Grand Mist Ancestor really has lofty ambitions. He wanted to sit on the Grand Mist Throne since he was young. Xiaohua cursed inwardly. But now, it's this Xiao who has the chance to sit on the throne. Not you. Where the Grand Mist Throne landed, the void collapsed. Countless amounts of heaven and earth origin energy rushed in, and countless illusions were destroyed. The 5 elements origin beasts flew around the throne in a frenzy. Master Shaolei. Immortal Emperor Gaochen was very satisfied with the shock caused by the throne's appearance. He smiled and said, "This Grand Mist Throne has been submerged under the Jade Lake for many years. Now that Master Shaolei is the leader of the Tao Gate, the Fortune Gate's great old master, you naturally have the qualifications to sit on it. Please." Haha. Your Majesty, you're wrong. How can this be called the Grand Mist Throne? It should be called the Fortune Throne. Xiaohua laughed heartily. With a tap of his finger, a bolt of lightning descended. Boom. The entire throne instantly emitted dazzling lightning. Following the lightning, the throne slowly flew toward Xiaohua. Xiaohua stood in midair and scanned his surroundings. His gaze started from the Grand Mist Ancestor, then Ao Qian, the Maitreya Buddha World Exalted, the Dipankara Archaic Buddha World Exalted, and others. Finally, it landed on the Grand Mist Ancestor. Xiaohua then looked towards the faraway Immortal Palace and said, "Your Majesty, this Xiao thanks you for this throne. However, if this Xiao were to sit on it alone, it would be quite lonely. Can I borrow Princess Zixia to sit with this Xiao?" Haha. Immortal Emperor Gaochen was very happy. He nodded and said, "This emperor loves to fulfill others' wishes. Although Princess Zixia has never married you, there is already an engagement. So what if she sits with you at the Jade Lake? If this matter were to spread to the hidden immortal realm, it would be a good story." Approved. "Thank you, Your Majesty." Princess Zixia's face was already flushed red. When she heard Xiaohua's words, her eyebrows relaxed. She stood up and bowed to express her thanks. Then, she urged her red cloud to fly to Xiaohua's side. Xiaohua affectionately reached out his hand and held her cold and sweaty hand. Princess Zixia lowered her head slightly. She was extremely shy. Then, Xiaohua slightly used his strength and gestured to Princess Zixia. The two of them slowly sat down. Boom. As the two of them sat down on the throne of creation, countless bolts of lightning that were several times more tyrannical than the one Xiaohua had seen in the Creation Tao Palace rushed into the sky. They turned into a huge pillar of lightning that swam through the sky. This lightning force forced the Dragon Island's second elder, the Maitreya Buddha, and the others to retreat a distance. As the throne sat down, the heavenly being and the Thunderbolt Master urged their figures and stood on both sides of the throne. Boom boom. 2 similar thrones formed by lightning appeared. The Grand Mist Ancestor's face was incomparably calm. He faintly smiled and his figure landed on the heavenly being's side. Xiaohua naturally wouldn't tease him. Lightning flashed as the Grand Mist Ancestor also sat on the throne. Empty. The Tao Gate seats were arranged. The entire Jade Lake was once again filled with the clear sound of a chime. Groups of women wearing seamless heavenly clothes appeared from the void. Although these women were beautiful and had graceful figures, they didn't seem to have a lively body. They only had faintly discernible lines. The heavenly women danced along with the sound of the chime. A kind of sadness and a kind of mystery involuntarily appeared in everyone's heart. However, at this time, Xiaohua didn't look at these heavenly women. Instead, he slightly tilted his head and looked at Princess Zixia. The princess also turned her head and looked at Xiaohua. The two of them were glued together like glue. Their fingers were tightly intertwined, and their thumbs were stuck together. Dong. After a while, another chime sounded. The heavenly women finished their dance and disappeared into the void. Waves of blue waves rolled out as maids from the immortal palace flew out from the jade lake with fine wines and delicacies in their hands. At the same time, a golden table appeared in front of Xiaohua's group. After the banquet was served, before immortal Emperor Gaochen could raise his cup, the Eastern Sea Lord, Ao Qian, smiled and said, "Your Majesty is a bit stingy, ah. The most famous dish of the Jade Lake gathering is the immortal peach. This item is left behind by the heavenly court. It blossoms every 3,000 years, bears fruit another 3,000 years, and ripens another 3,000 years. Ordinary people who eat it will become lighter and become immortals. Human cultivators who eat it will ascend and become immortal. My dragon race who eats it will live as long as the heaven and earth, as long as the sun and moon. Why are you still not taking it out?" "Haha." Immortal Emperor Gaochen laughed and said, "My dear subject, you always nag about this and always ask for the seeds of the immortal peach after eating it. Didn't I already tell you? This immortal peach is left behind by the heavenly court, and can only be grown in the jade lake of the Empress. Other places are not allowed." "I don't believe it, I don't believe it." Aoe used his dragon claw to stroke his dragon beard again and said with a smile, "My dragon island is a land of water essence. Everything can grow there. Even if this immortal peach is an immortal root, it will definitely be able to grow." "Ah, good." Immortal Emperor Gaochen seemed to be very happy. He turned to the Eastern Sea Empress and said, "Empress, the second elder of the Dragon Palace hasn't come to my immortal palace for a long time. We can't not give him face. How about giving some seeds to the Dragon Island?" Unfortunately, before immortal Emperor Gaochen could finish, the Eastern Sea Empress smiled and said, "Your Majesty, the immortal peach is the only thing in my immortal palace. Back then, it was your Majesty who issued the decree that every immortal peach's pit must be taken back, and forbidden the immortal peach from flowing to other places. Today, your Majesty wants me to go against your Majesty's decree?" Immortal Emperor Gaochen turned to look at Aoe with an innocent face and said, "Second elder, as you can see, it's not that I'm not accommodating. It's just that the Empress isn't willing." All right. Aoe waved his hand and said with a smile, "It's all your immortal palace's things. It's fine if you don't want to give it to me. Why do you have to make so many gimmicks? It sounds like you're teasing me." "Haha." Immortal Emperor Gaochen laughed loudly and raised his cup. He said loudly, "I declare that the Jade Lake gathering begins today. My first toast is to the invited exalts. I wish that all the sects and races will work together to resist the world-exterminating strange insect to the boundary of the world, and prevent the 3 continents from being plunged into misery and suffering. After our great victory, I will hold a banquet here and invite all of you to Aoe, the golden-winged great rock, the Dipankara archaic Buddha, and Xiaohua raised their cups and saluted each other from afar. Then they drank their cups in one gulp. Then immortal Emperor Gaochen raised his cup again and said, "My second toast is to the exalts of all sects and races. Now the 3 continents are in a turbulent situation. Talents from all sects and races have emerged. Not to mention the great sage Starry Sky Great Sage, and the heaven-defying Thunder Phoenix. The Thunder Sound Temple has the Maitreya Buddha, and the Immortal Palace has the 5 Cheese unification art that the Lord of the Literature Stream Palace brought to us Confucian cultivators. Just the emergence of Taoism and the emergence of several human Mahayana realm experts is enough to make us invincible against the world-exterminating omen. Come, let me toast to all of you." "Thank you, Your Majesty." Xiaohua and the others stood up and raised their cups in response. The third toast. Immortal Emperor Gaochen raised his cup again and looked around. He looked at the Immortal Palace's people and said, "I toast to the Confucian cultivators and the Immortal Palace's people. The turbulent situation in the three continents has inevitably affected my immortal palace, the hidden immortal continent, the sutra seeking in extreme bliss, the horizon of day and night, the heavenly secrets hall, and many other matters have also told me that I can't always be high and mighty. In the future, I must learn from the 100 schools of thought and get closer to the immortal palace's officials. Of course, I also toast to the Empress. I have to deal with the external affairs of the immortal palace, while the Empress has to deal with the internal affairs of the immortal palace. Oh, and I also hope that after Princess Wuxia gets married, she can put down her princess status and follow her daughter's teachings. She can assist her husband and help him achieve great things. The East Sea Empress looked at immortal Emperor Gaochen with a bit of surprise. However, a trace of gratitude and warmth flashed through her eyes. Princess Wuxia stood up with a red face and respectfully looked in the direction of the immortal palace. As for the peonies, near the edge, Princess Qingqing's face was pale. She gritted her teeth and looked at Princess Wuxia. "Thank you, Your Majesty." The immortal palace's people raised their cups and thanked immortal Emperor Gaochen for the third toast. Dongfang Qianghao didn't sit down. Instead, he raised his cup and said respectfully, "Since Your Majesty mentioned horizon of day and night, this old official will not sit down. Here, this old official will represent the 4 great clans to give Your Majesty a toast. In the past, we were a bit suspicious and were a bit estranged. However, after thinking about it recently, the 4 of us feel that Your Majesty is the most suitable person to sit in this position." Sigh. Immortal Emperor Gaochen raised his cup and sighed. "My dear official, I won't say much. It's lonely at the top. As long as you can comprehend this sentence, you will also understand my difficulties. Come, let's drink this cup. This cup of wine will let bygones be bygones." Dongfang Qianghao said proudly. "Indeed." Immortal Emperor Gaochen nodded and raised his cup. Xiaohua sat on the throne of creation in the distance. He was still holding Princess Wuxia's hand. He coldly looked at immortal Emperor Gaochen and Dongfang Qianghao. He knew that no one at the Jade Lake Conference would believe what they said. The Immortal Palace and the 4 great clans had a long history of grievances. If it wasn't for the rise of the Dao Gate and the apocalypse, they would be like fire and water now. How could this be resolved with a cup of wine? Perhaps taking Wuxia with me and roaming the shores of the West Sea will be the most wonderful thing in the future. Xiaohua thought to himself. He unconsciously turned his head, and saw that Princess Wuxia's face was still red. She raised her head and saw Xiaohua's gaze. Both their eyes were filled with satisfaction. When Dongfang Qianghao was about to sit down, immortal Emperor Gaochen smiled and said, "My dear official Dongfang, I remember that you have already made a request. For the prince." "Not good." Before immortal Emperor Gaochen finished speaking, the East Sea Empress' heart thumped. She knew what immortal Emperor Gaochen was about to say. She quickly stood up and smiled. "Your Majesty." "Oh." Immortal Emperor Gaochen was stunned. He looked at the Empress and asked curiously, "Empress, what's the matter?" "Not good." Princess Wuxia saw this and her body stiffened. She knew what the East Sea Empress wanted to do. She quickly sent a message to Xiaohua in a low voice. "Ah?" Hearing Princess Wuxia's sound transmission, Xiaohua was completely stupefied. How could there be such a thing? Why didn't I know about it? How could the lightning immortal tell you about this? Princess Wuxia anxiously replied. "Mother will definitely propose in person." Princess Wuxia was right. While she was sending a message to Xiaohua, the East Sea Empress had already spoken. "Your Majesty, I have something I wanted to discuss with you. However, since today is a joyous day, the sects of the 3 continents have reached an agreement to fight the world-destroying strange insect together. At the same time, it is also a good day for Your Majesty to betroth Princess Wuxia to lightning immortal Xiaohua. Therefore, I boldly hope that Your Majesty can add to the joy and betroth Princess Qingqing to the lightning immortal of the Fortune Gate." What? Not to mention immortal Emperor Gaochen. Even Dongfang Qianghao was stunned. Although the 2 of them didn't discuss this beforehand, immortal Emperor Gaochen's intention to rope Princess Qingqing in, and Dongfang Qianghao's intention to delay the marriage was already set in stone. However, they didn't expect the East Sea Empress to interfere. In the distance, Princess Qingqing watched all of this in disbelief. She felt as if she was in a dream. Her head, which was already heavy, became even heavier. However, in her scheming mind, a primitive joy involuntarily emerged, and a smile hung on her lips. "Congratulations, sister," Princess Miao Miao whispered enviously to the side. Princess Qingqing was so happy that she forgot to reply. However, the moment Princess Miao Miao finished her words, Immortal Emperor Go Chen understood the Empress' intentions. He quickly calculated the implications and laughed. "Wonderful, wonderful. The Empress and I are indeed of the same mind. I was just about to bring up Miao Miao's matter," and the Empress immediately thought of Qing. Princess Miao Miao's face instantly paled after hearing this. An indescribable sorrow appeared in her eyes. Old fox. Dongfang Qianghao cursed. He knew that Dongfang Huayan had a special liking for Princess Qingqing among the princesses of Immortal Emperor Gaochen. He also mentioned Princess Qingqing, not the cowardly Princess Miao Miao. However, to the Dongfang clan, Princess Qingqing and Princess Miao Miao didn't matter as long as she was a princess of the Immortal Palace. Therefore, Dongfang Qianghao also stood up with a smile. He was about to express his gratitude when a thunderous voice came from the side of the throne of creation. "What the hell is a betrothal? Old man Gaochen, old woman Dongfang. Why do you need to worry about my matters? You're annoying me for no reason." Immortal Emperor Gaochen's expression greatly changed as he snorted. How could he tolerate the Thunderbolt Immortal's rudeness to his face? However, as soon as Immortal Emperor Gaochen snorted, the Thunderbolt Immortal rolled his eyes and stood up. He smiled and said, "Your Majesty, your wine is truly rare in this world. After drinking a few cups, I couldn't help but lose my composure. I was drunk just now. Your Majesty, please forgive I for being a country bumpkin." "Haha, don't blame me, don't blame me." Immortal Emperor Gaochen hurriedly stopped while he was ahead. He smiled and said, "The wine at the Jade Lake Gathering is something that the hidden Immortal Continent doesn't have. It's normal for you to be a little tipsy." Normally, Immortal Emperor Gaochen would mention Princess Qingqing after saying this. However, seeing that the Thunderbolt Immortal was angry, he couldn't bring it up anymore. He quietly waited for the Thunderbolt Immortal to explain, so that he could resolve the awkwardness. Sure enough, the Thunderbolt Immortal said politely, "The Book of Songs is abundant, Guan Guan Ju Jiu in the River Continent. A gentle and graceful lady is a gentleman's dream. This humble Taoist has only met Princess Qingqing once, and it was during a battle. This humble Taoist doesn't think that I have a good relationship with Princess Qingqing, and this humble Taoist doesn't think that I can have a good future with Princess Qingqing. Therefore, I ask your Majesty and Empress to reconsider. Also, I am now engrossed in cultivation and have reached a critical moment. I have long lost interest in worldly affairs." Of course, the East Sea Empress couldn't tell the truth about Princess Qingqing. Immortal Emperor Gaochen thought that the Empress wanted to use Princess Qingqing to split the fortune gate. Seeing that the Thunderbolt Immortal rejected her, he pondered for a moment and nodded. "Forget it. If that's the case." At the moment Immortal Emperor Gaochen spoke, the East Sea Empress immediately understood the outcome. She sighed inwardly. Perhaps she had the same intentions as Princess Zixia, but she didn't have no plans to seek happiness for Princess Qingqing. After all, whether it was Princess Qingqing, Princess Xinxin, or Princess Miao Miao, they were all her daughters. However, when she thought about how her words prevented Princess Qingqing from marrying into the Dongfang family, and instead became Princess Miao Miao, the East Sea Empress didn't know whether to be happy or sad. Unfortunately, the East Sea Empress still underestimated her own daughter. Before Immortal Emperor Gaochen could finish speaking, Princess Qingqing flew out from the peony and screamed like a cuckoo. "Thunderbolt you! You're full of nonsense. If you weren't interested in me, why did you take advantage of me that day? You! My chastity has been tarnished. How can I marry someone else? This is bad." Princess Zixia's expression changed when she heard this. She didn't expect Princess Qingqing to cut off all means of retreat and reveal the matter of her being taken advantage of in front of the four great sects. Back then, Princess Xinxin didn't reveal the whereabouts of half a heaven's heart. Immortal Emperor Gaochen lost face and banished her to the lower realm, where she was suppressed at the bottom of the Liao River. Now Princess Qingqing's words angered him 100 times more than Princess Xinxin. Obviously, Immortal Emperor Gaochen couldn't do anything to the Thunderbolt Immortal and the Fortune Gate. Thus he could only punish Princess Qingqing. Of course, there were only two outcomes for Princess Qingqing. One was to marry the Thunderbolt Immortal, and the other was to be suppressed, or even suppressed forever. Chapter 46-74. Damn it! Xiaohua's expression changed. He didn't expect Princess Qingqing to be so vicious as to force him to abdicate. Thunderbolt Immortal, Thunderbolt Immortal. Princess Miao Miao, who was beside Princess Qingqing, was scared out of her wits. However, she finally came to her senses and hurriedly flew out. Please take pity on Qingqing. Ever since she fought with you at Dawn and Dawn Cliff, she has been thinking about you. Damn it! The Thunderbolt Immortal was furious. What does it have to do with me whether she thinks about me or not? The Thunderbolt Immortal's gentleness was naturally taught by Xiaohua. Now that he saw Princess Qingqing's ferocious expression trying to pester him, he was naturally anxious. The Thunderbolt Immortal's human nature wasn't perfect, so he naturally didn't know about. Xiaohua originally wanted to send a voice transmission, but Princess Zixia hurriedly said in a low voice, "No, absolutely not. If Princess Qingqing comes to the Fortune Gate, our Fortune Gate will be in chaos." Thus, Xiaohua didn't say anything else and allowed the Thunderbolt Immortal to pester him endlessly. Immortal Emperor Gaochen's expression darkened after seeing the princess causing so much trouble. He scowled and glared at the Eastern Sea Queen standing next to him. The gathering hasn't even started yet, and Princess Qingqing has already caused so much trouble. Who knows where his face has been thrown to? Immortal Emperor Gaochen scowled and glared at the Eastern Sea Queen. The East Sea Empress's face turned pale, and she lost her composure for a moment. Good. Princess Qingqing's face had already turned pale when she heard the Thunderbolt Immortal's ruthlessness. Kung. A rainbow sword appeared in her right hand as she wailed. Since you don't want me, I no longer have the face to exist in this world. Thunderbolt Immortal, today I'll die in front of you. As she said that, she pulled her right hand towards her neck and viciously cut it off. Everyone at the Jade Lake gathering was a supreme being. Stopping Princess Qingqing from committing suicide was as easy as flipping a hand. However, Xiaohua's divine sense suddenly stopped. Princess Zixia was right next to him. Princess Qingqing had always been Princess Zixia's greatest enemy. How could he attack her without Princess Zixia's permission? In particular, during the Jade Lake Conference, Immortal Emperor Gochen and the Eastern Sea Empress were the closest to Princess Qingqing. If the two of them didn't make a move, how could Xiaohua make a move? As for Princess Zixia, she sneered in her heart when she saw Princess Qingqing's reaction. She was very clear about Princess Qingqing's tricks. She knew that Princess Qingqing was relying on the fact that no one would let her die for no reason at the Jade Pool gathering. That was why she threatened the Thunderbolt Immortal with her death. If it was another occasion, Princess Qingqing would definitely use another method. Since Princess Zixia and Xiaohua had such thoughts, the Dipankara Archaic Buddha, the Maitreya Buddha, the Golden-Winged Great Rock, the Profound Armored Pentaceratops, Aoe, Aoqian, and even Dongfang Qianghao had such thoughts. As for the Eastern Sea Empress, she merely raised her hand and stopped. Although she felt sorry for Princess Qingqing, her thoughts were similar to Princess Zixia's. She also understood that the punishment Princess Qingqing was about to face might not be any better than death. If she tried to save her, Immortal Emperor Gochen would definitely be furious. She might as well let Immortal Emperor Gochen do it. This way, Princess Qingqing would receive less punishment. Princess Miao Miao's thoughts were similar to the Eastern Sea Empress. Although she was the closest to Princess Qingqing, her strength couldn't compare to Princess Qingqing's. Therefore, she anxiously looked at Immortal Emperor Gochen with pleading eyes. However, when the Azure Sword's Orochi landed on Princess Qingqing's snow-white neck, a trace of blood flowed out. Seeing that Princess Qingqing's beautiful head was about to be chopped off, Princess Meow Meow suddenly realized that the mean and scheming Princess Ching, who never allowed herself to be in danger, was serious this time. How? How is this possible? Princess Meow Meow instantly felt that this was extremely absurd. At the same time, she cried out in shock. Ching. Princess Wuxia's thoughts were different from Princess Meow Meow's. She didn't think that Princess Ching would fall in love with the Thunderbolt Enlightened Master after meeting him once. However, she still couldn't watch Princess Ching commit suicide in front of her. She hurriedly urged, "Hurry up and save that." Xiaohua was already accumulating his aura. When he heard Princess Wuxia's order, he didn't even hear it clearly and immediately sent out his divine sense. However, before Xiaohua's divine sense could settle down, boom boom boom, a series of loud explosions rang out around Princess Ching. That space instantly collapsed. The fluctuations of magic power, the righteous qi of the Confucian cultivators, the power of the stars and moon of the Yao clan, and even the Buddhist light all shattered at the same time. It turned out that when Xiaohua made his move, the Maitreya Buddha, the golden-winged Great Prung, and the others also made their moves at the same time. The result was, no one was able to stop Princess Ching from committing suicide. The azure sword had already landed on Princess Ching's neck. Blood splattered everywhere. Damn it! Xiaohua's figure blurred without hesitation and disappeared into thin air. However, it was already too late for him to make his move. Princess Ching wasn't the slightest bit attracted by the commotion around her. She only stared at the Thunderbolt Enlightened Master. Apart from risking everything in her suicide attempt, her heart was truly dead. Her eyes were filled with despair, helplessness, and desire as she stared at the Thunderbolt Enlightened Master. Unfortunately, the Thunderbolt Enlightened Master's eyes didn't change at all. He only looked at her indifferently as if he was someone unrelated to her. Alas, forget it. I'll just let this life pass. In the future, I won't join the imperial family anymore. Princess Ching's final thought was born. What Princess Ching didn't know was that the Thunderbolt Enlightened Master's heart felt like it was being pricked by needles. Traces of understanding appeared in his lifeless eyes. It seemed like he was in pain, but also seemed like he was worried. Just as Princess Ching was feeling disappointed, the Thunderbolt Enlightened Master's figure blurred and disappeared along with Xiaohua. The simultaneous attack of several supreme beings was extremely powerful. The collapsed space blocked everyone's attempts to rescue Princess Ching. Even people as strong as Xiaohua and the Thunderbolt Enlightened Master were unable to break through. It seemed that Princess Ching was really going to die. Right at this moment, an unexpected event occurred. A pitch-black silhouette of an insect that was over 10 meters in size flashed out from the collapsed space, and then a string of silhouettes that were almost 10 meters in size flashed before everyone's eyes. Swoosh! All of them struck Princess Ching's right cheek, azure bow sword, and even her right arm. There was no exception. A piece of Princess Ching's face was sliced off, the azure bow sword was slashed into two, and even her right arm and shoulder were sliced off. Princess Ching didn't move at all. She immediately fainted and her delicate body fell towards the bug shadow. This. Who is this? Everyone at the Jade Pool was shocked. The appearance of this shadow was too strange. There were no fluctuations of magic power or spatial fluctuations. It just flew out so strangely that no one noticed it. World-destroying bug? Of course, it only took a moment for the supreme beings to see it clearly. They all turned pale with fright. How did it get here? At this moment, Xiaohua had already broken through the void fragment and appeared near the bug. He saw Princess Ching's body fall towards the bug, and the bug didn't hesitate to slash its sickle-like tentacles at Princess Ching's waist. He raised his hand without hesitation. Boom! A pale golden fist flew out and hit the bug with lightning speed. Shwa! The fist landed on the strange insect's body, and the strange insect's body was immediately smashed. But at the same time, the strange insect's body swelled up again. Of course, it only flashed a few times. Pung! With a loud sound, the strange insect's body exploded. In the explosion, a lightning flashed and the Thunderbolt Enlightened Master's figure appeared. He frowned slightly and raised his hand to catch Princess Ching. Looking at the blood gushing out of Princess Qingqing's missing right arm and the pain between her brows, the Thunderbolt Enlightened Master had an indescribable feeling. The Thunderbolt Enlightened Master didn't hesitate. He raised his hand and pointed at Princess Qingqing's body. The gushing blood naturally stopped. At the same time, the Thunderbolt Enlightened Master took out an elixir and put it into Princess Qingqing's mouth. Once the elixir entered her mouth, color slowly returned to her face. Then, the Thunderbolt Enlightened Master raised his hand again and took out the severed arm that had fallen into the jade pool. He looked at it and was about to reattach it. Cough cough. Xiaohua saw this and hurriedly coughed twice. He reminded, fellow Thunderbolt Enlightened Master, men and women shouldn't touch each other. Earlier, you were a little rude. Today, we'll save Princess Qingqing. As for the treatment, let the Immortal Palace handle it. Okay. Hearing this, the Thunderbolt Enlightened Master looked around and waved his hand, sending Princess Qingqing and her severed arm to Princess Miao Miao. Just as the Thunderbolt Enlightened Master was about to speak, he heard a panicked cry from under the peonies. This. What is this? The Thunderbolt Enlightened Master looked up and saw a group of fist-sized insects flying out of the void beside the group of maidservants who were playing the music. When they saw the maidservants, they waved their serrated tentacles. Many of the insects even waved their hind legs and looked at the maidservants. These maidservants were clearly caught off guard. They all wanted to use their abilities to block, but they didn't dare to make too much of a fuss. Thus, most of them hurriedly dodged. These strange insects were about the size of a human fist, and their tentacles and hind legs were extremely sharp. The maids were no match for them. Wherever the tentacles and hind legs passed, not only were the maids' palace robes torn, even their skin was injured. The most serious injuries were to the bone. Damn it! Seeing these maidservants injured, the Thunderbolt Enlightened Master's heart couldn't help but feel pain. He cursed and waved his hand, sending out waves of lightning that accurately hit the hundreds of strange insects. Boom boom boom. All of the strange insects rapidly expanded, producing dark green fog. However, once the fog was produced, the bodies of the strange insects couldn't shrink and they exploded one after another. Fellow Taoist. The Thunderbolt Enlightened Master retracted his gaze from the chaotic maidservants and looked at Princess Qingqing, who was taken away by Princess Miao Miao. He asked in his heart, Is this love? Xiaohua's heart was filled with mixed feelings. He naturally hoped that the Thunderbolt Enlightened Master would have humanity and become an independent person. However, he didn't want the Thunderbolt Enlightened Master's love to fall on a woman like Princess Qingqing. Seeing Princess Qingqing, Xiaohua couldn't help but think of Chun-Yi from Dawn Rain Continent. He knew that Princess Qingqing's love for the Thunderbolt Enlightened Master was just a type of use. Love is very complicated. Xiaohua naturally couldn't explain this most complicated emotion of the human race. He could only say half-heartedly, "You still need to experience it yourself. However, I feel that it's better for you to leave." It was a pity that he had only said half a sentence in his heart. Buzz. Waves of tsunami-like sounds resounded from the surroundings of the Jade Lake. A kind of fluctuation that Xiaohua was familiar with came from the source of this sound, and it surged towards him from all directions. This fluctuation attacked the Naiwan Palace. Just as it appeared, many maidservants had already fallen. Xiaohua's divine sense swept over, and he couldn't help but be shocked. He saw that the entire space was filled with strange insects of different sizes. Among these strange insects, the small ones were as small as ink dots while the large ones were more than 10 feet long. All of them flapped their wings and pounced towards the Jade Lake. Their targets were either human or demon cultivators, or Buddhist light, lightning, or the power of the stars and moon. Damn it! Xiaohua didn't have time to explain to the Thunderbolt Enlightened Master what love was. He cursed in his heart and his figure flashed, landing on the throne of creation. Looking at the countless strange insects wreaking havoc in the space, Xiaohua narrowed his eyes and pondered in his heart. It seems like this Zhao's guess was correct. The black dots that I saw in the eye of the Western Sea that year were these strange insects. If that's the case, these strange insects didn't attack from the borders of the 3 continents, but from the spatial meridians of the 3 continents. In other words, the defensive line that we discussed before was completely meaningless. Since these strange insects could attack the space where the Lingyun Side Palace is located, they can naturally attack any place in the 3 continents and 4 seas. Now we have to face many defenses. It's time to fight to the death. Immortal Emperor Gaochen was originally angered by Princess Qingqing to the point of 1 Buddha coming into being and 2 Buddhas going through nirvana. When Princess Qingqing committed suicide, he, who was the most qualified and most likely to help, instead coldly watched and didn't do anything. This was because in his eyes, Princess Qingqing truly acted on her own and reaped what she sowed. Not only did she lose face, but the reputation of the Immortal Palace was also smeared. Princess Qingqing's suicide was her best choice. However, when he saw the appearance of the strange insects and the changes that occurred, Immortal Emperor Gaochen coldly snorted and thought that he was lucky. After all, these strange insects were an excellent excuse, especially when Xiaohua and the Thunderbolt Immortal made a move. It was also a good way out. However, before Immortal Emperor Gaochen could say anything, even more strange insects attacked, not giving him a chance to speak. Seeing the panicked maids, Immortal Emperor Gaochen was somewhat angry. He slapped the phantom of the golden throne below him. Boom, boom, boom. A huge explosion resounded as a beam of light that resembled a dragon or tiger rushed into the sky. Bang, bang, bang. Countless fine explosions resounded. In the space to the north where the Confucian cultivators were located, an area of several thousand feet in size, all of the strange insects were killed. Calm down, calm down. Immortal Emperor Gaochen's oppressive voice resounded in the Jade Lake. This is the Jade Lake gathering. All the Supremes are here. What are you afraid of? Unfortunately, before Immortal Emperor Gaochen could finish, a miserable scream resounded. Below the peony bush that was the furthest away from Immortal Emperor Gaochen, a strange insect that was several zhang long strangely rushed out from the void. Its sharp hind legs, in the blink of an eye, chopped off the arm of a maid with a low cultivation. The maid screamed and fainted. At the same time, the strange insect's tail came out from the maid's back and stabbed into her heart. There was a flash of blood at the tip of the tail, and the woman's chest withered instantly. Namo Amit Ba. To the side, Namo Wisdom Manjushri didn't dare to be careless. He quickly chanted a Buddhist chant and formed a mudra with both hands. Boom! A Buddhist light flowed and entered the strange insect's body. The entire body of the strange insect seemed to be plated with this Buddhist light. It was golden and dazzling. Then its entire body suddenly expanded. In the blink of an eye, the strange insect was more than 10 feet in size. At the same time, a layer of dark green mist seeped out from the grayish-white spots on the strange insect's body. Then its body shrank rapidly. However, it stopped after shrinking for a few feet. Chirp chirp. The strange insect made a hissing sound as if it was happy. It abandoned the maid and pounced on Manjushri Bodhisattva. This Namwu wise Manjushri is surprised when he sees the light of Buddha around the strange insect. The green mist is intertwined with the light of Buddha, and it looks very weird. He knew that his cultivation was not enough, but he really didn't expect that his Buddhist mudra not only didn't harm the strange insect, but also allowed it to evolve. Amidst his astonishment, Namo Wisdom Manjushri raised his hand and touched the light behind his head. A strand of faith light turned into a sword ray and entered the strange insect's body. Namo Wisdom Manjushri didn't believe that a strange insect could bear the power of faith of the Buddhism sect. However, Namo Wisdom Manjushri still underestimated the magical power of this strange insect. As the faith light fell, the strange insect's body immediately became transparent. Layers of Buddhist light seeped in from the outside. Then a light shadow like a Buddha statue appeared in the strange insect's body. At this time, the strange insect's body expanded again. 150 feet, 200 feet, 300 feet. Namo Methreya. Seeing that the strange insect's body was expanding and the light shadow of the Buddha statue in its body was becoming clearer, Namo Methreya put his palms together and chanted a Buddhist chant. Buddha in all living things is nothing more than this. Although this strange insect came from the outer region, With the Buddhist light and faith, it can also become a Buddha. Boom. Amidst the Maitreya Buddha's chanting, the strange insect finally couldn't control its body that was swollen by the power of faith and finally exploded. While Namo Wisdom Manjushri was killing the strange insect, Sun Jian, Heavenly King Qingyu, and Heavenly King Fuyu were also enraged by Immortal Emperor Go Chun. They quickly flew out and waved their weapons to kill the strange insect. At the same time, they also ordered the guards outside of the Jade Lake to come in and resist. Rumble. At the location of the golden-winged Pung and the black-armored Pentaceratops, waves of cold power of the stars and moon shot up to the sky like pillars of light. Under these pillars of light, all the strange insects were killed. Even the Armageddon strange insects that were attracted by the light pillar of stars and moon rapidly expanded and exploded when they came into contact with the power of the stars and moon. If the pillars of light of the demon race's great saint were so powerful, then there was no need to mention Xiaohua's lightning. The lightning was like tens of millions of flying swords and instantly killed all the strange insects south of the Jade Lake. Although the Dragon Island and the Buddhist sect also used their methods to kill most of the strange insects that appeared before the Immortal Palace, the Great Sage Hall, and the Fortune Gate, the strange insects seemed to be endless. They rushed out of the void like moths to a flame and pounced on the divine abilities of the Supremes. Immortal Emperor Go Chen's expression was very ugly. After he shouted, "Calm down," he didn't say anything else and only watched everything that was happening at the Jade Lake with a heavy expression. Of course, the immortal soldiers and generals of the Immortal Palace were also well trained. At the beginning, it was only the maids with weak cultivation who panicked. After the immortal soldiers and generals appeared, they began to organize an effective defense and gradually killed the strange insects. "Your Majesty," Xiaohua urged the lightning to protect the southern region. Seeing the countless strange insects flying out, he thought of something and said with a smile, "Earlier, I told you about the strength of these strange insects and also mentioned how to kill them. I'm sure Your Majesty can see that the Supremes didn't believe me. Now that these strange insects have come to disturb the gathering at the Jade Lake, isn't this a chance for us to test them?" "Umph." Immortal Emperor Go Chun snorted coldly. It was obvious that he still held a grudge against the Thunderbolt Immortal. However, after he snorted he said, "Heavenly King Qingyu, set up the formations. Use the Cloud Mist formation, the Tiger Roar formation, and the Flying Crane formation to deal with the attacks of the strange insects. Let's see how strong these strange insects are, and what methods can be used to kill them." "Yes, Your Majesty." Hearing this, Heavenly King Qingyu didn't dare to be negligent and hurriedly ordered, "Everyone, release the Cloud Mist formation." Yes. The immortal soldiers and generals blocked and killed the strange insects while flying and forming an origin formation. As soon as the origin formation was formed, countless mighty pillars of chi fell from the sky. Layers of clouds emerged from the nearby space and shrouded the strange insects like clouds. Swish, swish, swish. Wherever the clouds passed, it was as if thousands of guillotines were chopping down. The strange insects that were enveloped by the clouds were all cut in half. The corpses of the strange insects fell down like leaves. "I don't think this will work," Xiaohua said indifferently. "Not necessarily," Immortal Emperor Gaochen replied coldly. "My Immortal Palace's Cloud Mist formation. Unfortunately, before Immortal Emperor Gochen could finish his words, rustle, rustle, rustle. The millions of insect corpses that had yet to fall into the Jade Lake suddenly emitted strange ripples. Then the two halves of the insect corpses came back to life. These shapeless insects formed a formation and like a black fog, they fell onto the Jade Lake. Zzz. Strange noises appeared again as the space above the Jade Lake began to shatter. These strange insects were actually devouring the Heaven-Earth origin chi and other things attached to the space. The EC Empress frowned and raised her hand to summon the Jade Lake's waves. However, Immortal Emperor Gaochen ordered indifferently, "Don't be hasty. Don't kill them yet. Master Xiaolei is right. The strange insects attacking the Jade Lake is indeed a disappointing matter, but it is also a rare opportunity. Everyone here is the supremes of the various sects, so there is no suspense about the outcome of this battle. Let's see what kind of ability these strange insects have to destroy the world." Yes, Your Majesty. The East Sea Empress nodded and stared at the strange insects above the Jade Lake. The insects were densely packed and most of them were only a few inches in size. However, as Immortal Emperor Gaochen spoke, these strange insects had already devoured the space. Waves of strange ripples came from other parts of the space, as the Heaven-Earth origin chi automatically repaired the spatial cracks. Strands of grayish-black light appeared above the Jade Lake's waves. When the light appeared, some of the strange insects were sucked into the light and disappeared. However, even more of them flapped their wings and pounced on the Jade Lake's waves. Chirp, chirp, chirp. Like silkworms devouring mulberry leaves, the Jade Lake's waves dropped by half a foot. Chirp, chirp. When the strange insects recovered, they screeched and rushed into the sky again. They either pounced on the immortal soldiers and immortal generals, or the pearls formed by the Heaven-Earth origin chi. None of them were quiet. Heavenly King Fuyu's expression slightly changed when he saw the strange insects rampaging again. He looked at Heavenly King Qingyu and waved his hand, ordering, "Brothers, set up the Tiger Roar formation." Yes. The immortal soldiers and immortal generals received the order, and moved their bodies to change the formation again. A moment later, a tricolored origin formation appeared above the Jade Lake. Roar. A roar came from the origin formation as a shadow that was several thousand feet tall flew out with the roar. This shadow looked like a tiger but was not one. It had a pair of wings on its back. The moment this shadow appeared, thousands of vast chi pillars fell from the sky. Then the shadow gradually solidified and pounced on the strange insects that were like black clouds. Wherever this tiger shadow passed, the space was also torn apart. All the auras were disturbed as a chilling aura shrouded the nearby area. Unfortunately, the strange insects that were shrouded were not afraid of death. As soon as the tiger-shaped shadow solidified, they began to fly toward the shadow. Even the strange insects that were not shrouded were attracted by the aura of the Great Spirit Pillar. They spread their wings and flew out. Puff, puff, puff. Wherever the shadow landed, tens of thousands of strange insects were killed. They either turned into powder, or were smashed into pieces. There were even more that were torn apart. After the shadow, the strange insects that were attracted to it swarmed over, and landed everywhere on the shadow. Rustle, rustle, rustle. The sound of leaves being eaten was heard again. The tiger shadow suddenly became much dimmer. Damn it. Immortal Emperor Gochen saw this and knew that the tiger roar formation was not effective either. Everyone. Heavenly King Qingyu also frowned and gave the order to change the formation again. In the time it took to eat a meal, the Immortal Palace set up 10 different origin formations. Although the effects of each origin formation were different, none of the origin formations were very effective. Moreover, after the time it took to eat a meal, the strange insects that were only a few feet tall had grown to dozens of feet tall. They were much more powerful than before. Rather than saying that the Immortal Palace was testing the strange insects, it was more accurate to say that the Immortal Palace was using the origin formations to feed the strange insects. Finally, Xiaohua raised his voice and said, "Your Majesty, the immortal soldiers and immortal generals should form an origin formation to fight against the world-destroying strange insects rather than fighting alone. However, if you want to have the same effect as dealing with ordinary strange insects, it's impossible. Based on my previous experience of fighting against strange insects, I'm afraid that I can only use the heaven and earth essence energy that exceeds the absorption limit of the strange insects to stuff them to death. The question is, where is the absorption limit of these strange insects?" Aoe also frowned and said, "Back then, after the strange insects appeared in the Stacked Jade Legacy realm, the elders of my Dragon Island also discussed this matter. According to the description of the escaped dragons, this thing seems to be even more powerful than Long Sea. The damage of the body and the attacks of Dharma powers are all ineffective. Only the dragon aura can explode it. Everyone, please wait a moment." When the golden-winged roc heard this, he said, "Let me see if this strange insect can devour the power of the stars and moon." As he spoke, the golden-winged roc waved his wings. A thumb-sized pillar of starlight and moonlight emerged from his body, and pierced towards a strange insect like a sword. Sage Rock. The Lord of the East Ocean, Ao Qian did not know whether to laugh or cry. He pointed at the demon mountain peak with his dragon claw and said, "Why are you testing it? Aren't there already thousands of strange insects devouring the pillar of starlight and moonlight above your head?" Boom. The golden-winged rock naturally ignored Ao Qian. The pillar of starlight and moonlight landed on the strange insect. The strange insect also suddenly expanded and produced a dark green fog. Its body slowly shrank. It was obvious that it was devouring the pillar of starlight and moonlight. However, in just a moment, the strange insect's body exploded. "Damn it, this is troublesome," the golden-winged rock shouted. "It's not a problem for me to kill these strange insects. It should not be a problem for those demon kings and great demons, but what about ordinary demon generals? This strange insect really has the ability to destroy the world." Xiaohua smiled coldly and said, "Of course. Otherwise, how could we have seen the apocalyptic warning sign when we were in Longevity Town? Even if it has the ability to destroy the world, so what?" Immortal Emperor Gaochen was still disdainful towards the strange insect. All living things in the world have the ability to reinforce and counter each other. Although these strange insects are powerful, they definitely have a weakness. It's just that we don't know about it. Moreover, within the 3 continents, the strongest is at the peak of 9th level essence energy, no matter how many of these strange insects there are. At this point, Immortal Emperor Gaochen was suddenly shocked. He seemed to have thought of something and shut his mouth. What Immortal Emperor Gaochen thought of, Xiaohua and the others also thought of. Everyone's expression changed. After all, there were too many strange insects to count. Who could guarantee that there wouldn't be any monsters at the peak of 9th level essence energy? If there were only 1 or 2 peak level strange insects, they would not be afraid. However, with so many strange insects, how many peak level strange insects would appear? At this moment, everyone had some understanding. Just these low-level strange insects might not be able to trigger the apocalyptic warning sign. There must be many peak-level strange insects appearing to trigger the apocalyptic warning sign. Namo Maitreya Buddha. Namo Maitreya Buddha placed his palms together and said, "My Buddha is merciful. There is a Tao in heaven and earth. There will always be a trace of life in the midst of all difficulties. Although these strange insects are powerful, Your Majesty is right. Heavenly horses also have a weakness. Today is a good opportunity. Let's take a look at these strange insects and see where their weakness is." When he heard up to here, Xiaohua suddenly thought in his heart as he recalled the strange mosquito he'd encountered in the exquisite pagoda that overturned illusions while he was in the ruins. That day, when Xiaohua subdued the mosquito, he asked it a question. That question was, other than using more heaven and earth essence energy than you can bear to make you explode, other than your natural enemy, what other methods are there to kill you? The reason why Xiaohua asked this question was because he had encountered a strange insect before. The strength of the strange insect made Xiaohua shudder. Therefore, when Xiaohua saw a mosquito that looked similar to the strange insect, he couldn't help but ask about it. That mosquito didn't seem to be willing to answer, but it was forced by Xiaohua to say a few methods. At that time, Xiaohua secretly shook his head. He felt that those methods were too harsh. The reason was that to kill the mosquito, it needed a different kind of heaven and earth essence energy. Because strange insects like the mosquito and the strange insect ate heaven and earth essence energy, they could devour all kinds of heaven and earth essence energy. Who knew what kind of heaven and earth essence energy was different to them? Therefore, Xiaohua let the mosquito go. Now, when he encountered the strange insect again, Xiaohua naturally thought of this. However, with all the sovereigns present, the heaven and earth essence energy, the righteous energy, the power of the stars and moon, the power of faith, the Buddha's light, and so on, they all appeared at the jade pool. These strange insects also had a strange appetite. They devoured all kinds of true energy, so they weren't afraid of having a bad appetite. However, since this was a method to kill the strange insect, Xiaohua couldn't not tell the sovereigns. Therefore, Xiaohua hurriedly said, "Everyone, since these strange insects devour true energy, we can only rely on true energy to make them explode. Then let's think about it another way. If there is any true energy that the strange insect can't devour, wouldn't it be killed? Wonderful. The golden-winged great pung clapped and shouted. Dragon Teacher Zhao's idea is really unimaginable. Let me think. Besides the power of the stars and moon, what else do I know? Cuckoo. As the golden-winged great pung spoke, his entire abdomen suddenly emitted a strange sound. Then the golden-winged great pung opened his mouth again. Woo. A demonic energy mixed with purple and gold rushed out, piercing through the void and directly piercing into the shell of a strange insect that was a few feet in size. A cluster of red lotus hellfire flickered, and the power of reincarnation fell on several strange insects. Boom. Where the red lotus hellfire fell, the strange insect's shell was immediately ignited. Gigi. The strange insect hissed, as if it was in pain. Seeing this, Xiaohua and the others couldn't help but be overjoyed. However, right at this moment, the green mist gushed out from the strange insect's shell once again, extinguishing the red lotus hellfire. Moreover, after the hellfire was extinguished, it didn't disappear. Instead, it transformed into wisps of blood-red viscous substance that seeped into the strange insect's shell, causing the strange insect to swell up once again. Umitba, Umitba. The Dipankara archaic Buddha raised his brows and exclaimed in shock. He knew that if the strange insect could even devour the power of reincarnation, the Thunderclap Temple wouldn't have any methods to restrain it. Kill. The Thunderbolt Immortal roared. He raised his hand, and sword-like lightning flashed, killing the strange insect on behalf of the Dipankara archaic Buddha. Oh. Xiaohua looked at the Thunderbolt Immortal strangely. If it was in the past, the Thunderbolt Immortal might consider for himself or the Fortune Gate's disciples. However, he would never consider for others. Now, the Thunderbolt Immortal actually thought that the Dipankara archaic Buddha was the Buddha Lord, and that it wasn't appropriate for him to commit murder. Instead, he killed the strange insect on behalf of the Dipankara archaic Buddha. Wasn't this the sign of his awakening? However, after the Thunderbolt Immortal killed the strange insect, he retracted his hand and calmly stood at the side. Taoist, would you like to give it a try? Xiaohua looked at the heavenly being and smiled. Your 3 lights augmenting thunder might be the nemesis of these strange insects. That's right. I'll go take a look. Hearing this, the heavenly being smiled proudly and flew out of the mountain peak. Seeing the heavenly being flying out, a swarm of strange insects immediately pounced on him. These strange insects emitted extremely faint yet powerful fluctuations that surrounded the heavenly being. The heavenly being's expression didn't change. He let out a long roar and revealed his 3 heads and 6 arms. Roar! The 3 heads opened their mouths and shot out 3 light pillars. Pa 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 pa. Wherever the light pillars passed, tens of thousands of strange insects would swell and explode. Of course, it was only swell. None of them were destroyed due to the difference in the true qi contained within the light pillars. Kacha. Seeing that the 3 light pillars didn't have any effect, the heavenly being couldn't help but feel angry. He raised his 6 arms at the same time, and dozens of different colored lightning balls appeared out of thin air and landed around him. Rumble. In the huge rumbling sound, the strange insects that pounced on the heavenly being were all killed. And Xiaohua also saw clearly that these strange insects were all swell and explode. Damn it. This is really strange. The heavenly being cursed. His figure flashed, and he landed beside the throne of creation again. He said, even this daddy's method is useless. Then in these 3 continents, where can there be heaven and earth origin energy that these strange insects can't devour? Seeing that the heavenly being's method was also useless, Xiaohua couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. No one knew better than him that the heavenly being's method came from the immortal realm. The divine ability that he cultivated was from the heavenly being clan. If his method couldn't easily kill these strange insects, then in the entire 3 continents, there really wasn't any method that could easily kill these strange insects. Maybe, Xiaohua thought to himself, only soul cultivation methods. Thinking about soul cultivation methods, Xiaohua smiled wryly. He had encountered these strange insects when he was condensing his nascent soul in the void. Although he was only a nascent soul at that time, and the strange insects were only a few feet long, He had already used the lightning flash and thunder roll technique, and the lightning bolts activated by the green seal characters were also devoured by the strange insects. Now that Xiaohua's soul cultivation had reached grand completion, he could easily kill these strange insects, and even soul cultivation methods could easily kill them, but he couldn't find the insect's weakness from the root. Let's give it a try. Xiaohua didn't give up. He waved his hand, and the soul cultivator's 3 corpses in thunder fell down. Rumble. The strange insects in the distance were killed, but there were no signs that they would be destroyed upon contact. Clearly, this was not a method that Xiaohua wanted to use. Then Ao Qian, the black-armored Pentaceratops, Maitreya Buddha, and the world's sovereign all used their own secret techniques to investigate, but unfortunately, it was not ideal. Take a look at my methods. Immortal Emperor Gaochen saw that everyone was somewhat helpless, and finally said, after my immortal palace obtained the 5 Qis origin technique, I also benefited a lot. The 5 Qis of my Confucian cultivation are the foundation of heaven and earth, the foundation of humanity, so it must be different from ordinary heaven and earth origin energy. Your Majesty's words are reasonable. Xiaohua gave him a high hat and said with a smile, I will wait for your Majesty's methods. Immortal Emperor Gaochen raised his hand and patted the crown on his head. Boom. A 5-colored Qi pillar gushed out, and then the 5-colored Qi pillar brushed down from the sky, turning into hundreds of thousands of tiny Qi pillars. These Qi pillars were like needles that pierced into the bodies of the 100,000 strange insects. Woo. The 5-colored Qi entered the bodies of the strange insects, and the bodies of the strange insects immediately swelled up. Moreover, the moment they swelled up, some of them were dark green, some of them were like gray fog, and all of them were seen gushing out. Boom. The bodies of these strange insects swelled up a lot, and then they all exploded. The third place tearfully asks for subscriptions. If the subscriptions exceed 1,000, the immortal world will be opened. Next, I ask for monthly votes. If the monthly votes exceed 100, I will add more chapters. Third, I ask for recommendation support. If the recommendation exceeds 1,000, I will add more chapters. How Xiaohua went against the light to become a saint. It is completely up to everyone. The third place thanks. Chapter 46-75. Cuckoo. As the golden-winged great rock spoke, its abdomen suddenly emitted a strange sound. Then the golden-winged great rock opened its mouth again. Woo! A demonic aura mixed with purplish gold rushed out, piercing through the void, and directly piercing into the shell of a strange insect that was several feet large. That the demonic qi pierced into the strange insect's metallic shell like a needle. However, when the strange insect suddenly expanded, and a dark green mist surged out, Xiaohua shook his head. Sure enough, the strange insect instantly grew 10 times larger. The dark green mist swirled around the strange insect for a moment, but the strange insect's body didn't shrink at all. Chirp chirp. The strange insect hissed. Its 2 long hind legs drew a line in the air, and the entire body of the strange insect disappeared. At this moment, a miserable shriek sounded. On the side of the origin formation in the distance, a somewhat absent-minded immortal soldier was split in half. After the miserable shriek, the strange insect that was several dozen feet long loftily appeared on the head of the immortal soldier's corpse. The tip of the strange insect's tail had already reached out from the void, and pierced towards the corpse's heart. Damn it! The golden-winged great rock cursed inwardly when he saw that his demonic qi was more effective than the power of the stars and moon. Then, an obscure power of the stars and moon appeared near the strange insect, and pierced into it like a sharp awl. Boom! The strange insect was annihilated, leaving not even a corpse behind. Haha, my demon race's demonic qi, and even dragon qi, might be more effective than normal heaven and earth's essence qi against this strange insect. The profound armored pentahorn dragon smiled and said, The rock sage's probing is extremely effective. In the future, when my 1,000 demons sacred grounds demon race and the dragon race of the Dragon Island fight against these strange insects, you must be careful. Ba. The Dipankara archaic Buddha chanted and said softly, Let me give it a try. Following his chanting, the Dipankara archaic Buddha raised his palms. Whoosh! A cluster of red lotus karmic fire flickered, and the power of samsara landed on a few strange insects. Boom! The karmic fire of the red lotus immediately ignited the strange insect's body. Chirp chirp! The strange insect hissed as if it was in pain. Xiaohua and the others were overjoyed when they saw this and were about to take a closer look. However, at this moment, the green mist gushed out of the strange insect's shell again. The red lotus karmic fire was immediately extinguished. However, after the karmic fire was extinguished, it did not disappear. Instead, it turned into a scarlet viscous substance that seeped into the strange insect's shell. The strange insect grew bigger again. Umitba. The Dipankara archaic Buddha raised his eyebrows and exclaimed in surprise. He knew that if this strange insect could even devour the power of samsara, the Thundersound Temple would have no means of restraining it. Kill! The Thunderbolt Immortal let out a low roar. With a point of his finger, sword-like Thunderbolt slayed the strange bug on behalf of the Dipankara archaic Buddha. Oh! Xiaohua looked at the Thunderbolt Immortal strangely. If it was in the past, the Thunderbolt Immortal might consider for himself or the Fortune Gate's disciples. However, he would never consider for others. Now the Thunderbolt Immortal actually thought that the Dipankara archaic Buddha was the Buddha Lord, and that it was inappropriate for him to commit murder. Instead, he killed the strange insect on behalf of the Dipankara archaic Buddha. Wasn't this the sign of his awakening? However, after the Thunderbolt Immortal killed the strange insect, he retracted his hand and calmly stood at the side. Would you like to give it a try? Xiaohua looked at the heavenly man and smiled. Your three lights augmenting thunder might be the nemesis of these strange insects. That's right. I'll go take a look. Hearing this, the heavenly man smiled proudly and flew out of the mountain peak. Seeing the heavenly man fly out, a swarm of strange insects immediately pounced on him. These strange insects emitted extremely faint yet powerful ripples that surrounded the heavenly man. The heavenly man's expression didn't change. He roared towards the sky and revealed his 3 heads and 6 arms. Roar! The 3 heads opened their mouths and shot out 3 light pillars. Pa 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 pa. Wherever the light pillars passed, tens of thousands of strange insects would swell and explode. Of course, they only swell. Not a single one of them died, because of the difference in the true chi contained in the light pillars. Kacha! Seeing that the 3 light pillars had no effect, the heavenly man couldn't help but feel furious. He raised his 6 arms at the same time, and dozens of different colored lightning balls appeared out of thin air and landed around him. Rumble! Amidst loud explosions, the strange insects that pounced on the heavenly man were all killed. Xiaohua could clearly see that these strange insects had all exploded from the swelled-up motherfucker. This is really strange. The heavenly man cursed. His figure flashed, and he landed next to the throne of creation again. He said, "Even my method is useless. Then in these 3 continents, where is the origin energy of heaven and earth that these strange insects can't devour?" Seeing that the heavenly man's method was also useless, Xiaohua couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. No one knew better than him that the heavenly man's method came from the God realm. The divine ability he cultivated was from the heavenly man clan. If his method couldn't easily kill these strange insects, then in the 3 continents, there really wasn't any method that could easily kill these strange insects. Maybe, Xiaohua thought to himself, only soul cultivation methods can be used. Thinking of soul cultivation methods, Xiaohua smiled bitterly. He had encountered these strange insects when he was condensing his nascent soul in the void. Although Xiaohua was only a nascent soul at that time, and the strange insects were only a few feet long, Xiaohua had already used the lightning flash and thunder roll technique, and the lightning bolts activated by the green seal characters were also swallowed by the strange insects. Now that Xiaohua had reached great success in soul cultivation, he could easily kill these strange insects, and even soul cultivation methods could easily kill them, but he couldn't find the insect's weakness from the root. Let's give it a try. Xiaohua didn't give up. He waved his hand, and the soul cultivator's 3 corpses in thunder fell down. Rumble! The strange insects in the distance were killed, but there were no signs of them being destroyed upon contact. Obviously, this was not Xiaohua's method. Then Aoqian Mystic Armored Pentaceratops, Mithriya Buddha, and the others all used their own secret techniques to investigate, but unfortunately, it was not ideal. Take a look at my method. Immortal Emperor Gaochen looked at the helpless crowd, and finally said, after my immortal palace obtained the 5 energies origin technique, I also benefited greatly. The 5 energies of Confucian cultivators are the foundation of heaven and earth, the foundation of humanity, so it must be different from ordinary heaven and earth origin energy. Your Majesty's words are reasonable. Xiaohua flattered him and said with a smile, I will wait for your Majesty's method. Immortal Emperor Gaochen raised his hand and patted the crown on his head. Boom. A 5-colored energy pillar gushed out. Then the 5-colored energy pillar brushed down from the sky and turned into hundreds of thousands of tiny energy pillars. These energy pillars were like needles that pierced into the bodies of the strange insects. Woo. When the 5-colored energy entered the bodies of the strange insects, the bodies of the strange insects immediately swelled up. Moreover, the moment they swelled up, some were dark green, some were like gray fog, and some were like gray fog. Boom. The bodies of these strange insects swelled up a lot, and then they all exploded. Sigh. Xiaohua's eyes originally lit up, but the joy immediately disappeared. He understood in his heart that even though immortal Emperor Go Chen condensed the 5 Qi's origin Qi pillar to a very fine degree, it was still the terrifying power condensed within the Qi needle that was able to explode the strange insect, and not the 5-colored true Qi. Your Majesty, Xiaohua said, what I thought was just a whimsical thought. How could there be different types of energy within the same realm? This matter. Let's not talk about it anymore. How about this? Let's see how the strength of these strange insects is distributed. Immortal Emperor Gaochen nodded and replied, I also feel that using different types of energy to kill these strange insects is a bit unimaginable and too difficult. We should use normal methods. As for the difference in strength that Master Xiaohua mentioned, the Sun family and the others already had some judgment. Sun Jian, come over and tell us. Yes, Your Majesty. Sun Jian received the order and flew over. He bowed and said, Seniors, according to what Junior and Junior's subordinates found out, these strange insects' strength should be divided according to the size of their bodies. Currently, the insects besieging the Jade Lake are mostly several feet long. The strength of these strange insects is around the 5th stage of the origin energy of our 3 continents. When the golden-winged roc heard this, he couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air and said in shock, Sun Jianyu, you're not wrong, right? These several feet-long strange insects have the strength of our demon race's star-plucking realm? Alright, Rock Sage knows. It's exactly like this. Sun Jian turned to the golden-winged roc and said respectfully, back then, when Junior's origin energy was at the lower stage of the 5th stage, I encountered a several feet-long strange insect. At that time, Junior was almost unable to defeat that strange insect. How can this be? The mystic armored Pentaceratops was also surprised. So many strange insects. If they were placed in the 1,000 demons sacred realm, wouldn't our demon race be defeated? Not only that, Sun Jian said again, these strange insects advance by devouring all kinds of energy. The time it takes to advance is extremely short. As long as the energy doesn't make the strange insects explode, these strange insects can advance. Moreover, using normal methods, even if the strange insects are torn apart, these torn parts can rely on the energy they devour to recover into several strange insects. What about the other sizes? Xiaohua had already expected this, but he still asked in a low voice. Sun Jian replied, a foot long is an inch long. Strange insects several inches long have the strength of a 4th stage origin energy. Strange insects less than an inch long are just black dots, and these black dots, Junior has also tested, they have the strength of a 2nd or 3rd stage origin energy. An army of hundreds of millions of 2nd stage origin energy. Thinking about the densely packed black dots he saw in the space, Xiaohua's heart turned cold. He thought with some despair, Even if all of my Fortune Gate's disciples come out. Even if all of my Fortune Gate's 9 elders come out together. Even if all of the 3 continents human race and demonic beast race, the 4 seas dragon race and sea tribe, I'm afraid they still won't be able to exterminate this world-destroying insect army. How could immortal Emperor Gaochen and the others not know about Xiaohua's thoughts? The various Supremes' expressions changed again. Sun Jian looked at Xiaohua's gloomy face and said, "A foot long is a foot long. Strange insects several feet long have the strength of a 6th-stage origin energy. Strange insects several hundred feet long have the strength of a 7th-stage origin energy. As for 1,000 feet long and 1,000 feet long strange insects, Junior has not seen them, so I do not dare to make a judgment." So what if they are 1,000 feet long and 1,000 feet long strange insects? Dongfang Qianghao sneered. They are nothing more than 8th or 9th stage origin energy. Could there be a 10,000 feet long strange insect? Xiaohua looked at Dongfang Qianghao and said with a smile, "Dongfang family head, aren't you too optimistic? Previously, we didn't know how these strange insects advanced. We thought that they cultivated the same way as us, and that every time they advanced, there would only be 1 in 10,000. Thus, when we reached the higher levels, there were fewer and fewer of them. But now we understand that these strange insects advance by devouring true energy, and there are no bottlenecks during their advancement. In other words, as long as there is enough true energy, every black dot can advance to 1,000 feet long. They can become monsters that can stand shoulder to shoulder with us 9th stage origin energy experts." "How is that possible?" Dongfang Qianghao still shook his head and said in disbelief, "These strange insects are from outside the realm, but the place they came from is at most similar to the realm of our 3 continents. This old man does not believe that a realm can have countless experts that have reached the peak of that realm." Just as Dongfang Qianghao was shaking his head, a cold wind appeared out of nowhere, and an indescribable aura of destruction came from somewhere in the void. Even someone as strong as Xiaohua could not help but tremble. "Not good." Thunderbolt Immortal roared. "It seems like something powerful is coming." Xiaohua stood up and took out the Kunlun mirror without hesitation, and said to Princess Zixia, "Zixia, return to the Kunlun Immortal realm and hide for a while." "Okay." Princess Zixia nodded, but said, "However, Bayan is at the Immortal Palace. You have to think of a way to ensure her safety." "Empress." Xiaohua thought and hurriedly transmitted, "Where is Bayan? I will let Thunderbolt Immortal bring her back." Bayan is with Qing Qing and Miao Miao. The East Sea Empress expression also changed slightly, and her eyes flashed with a clear light as she looked around and answered casually. Hearing the 2 words Qing Qing, Xiaohua gritted his teeth and glared at the East Sea Empress, then put Princess Zixia into the space. It was also at this moment that a dark ray of light suddenly appeared in the sky. With a swoosh, it struck the mountain where the Immortal Palace was located. This ray of light came too suddenly. Even though Immortal Emperor Gaochen and the East Sea Empress were on high alert, they still couldn't guard against it. Boom! Where the light landed, there was a huge explosion, and the scroll seemed to be torn apart by a giant hand. Layer upon layer of cracks, the inscriptions on the armor mixed with a 5-colored light gushed out from the cracks. "Gigi!" With an ear-piercing screech, a huge mouth stretched out from the void, and swallowed the light and the inscriptions on the armor. Then 2 pitch-black eyes appeared in the sky, and finally, a strange insect that was several thousand feet long, like a huge flying boat, slowly appeared. The moment the strange insect appeared, a powerful aura overflowed from its body, and filled the entire Jade Lake. Its 3,000 feet long hind legs slightly slashed in the air, and the broken peony bushes were instantly cut in half. Seeing the strange insect devouring the scroll mountain with a caw-caw sound, Xiaohua suddenly came to a realization. Thinking of the vision he saw when he entered this space, he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Damn it, this Xiao understands now. This Lingyun Side Palace did not originally exist in this space. It was because Immortal Emperor Go-Chin wanted to hold the Jade Lake gathering here that he created this space to store the Lingyun Side Palace. Xian also made it clear that the Jade Lake was only an immortal imperial treasure controlled by the Imperial Empress. and it also needed to absorb the righteous energy in this place. The five-colored scene I saw when I entered was the scene of the Jade Lake, and the Lingyun Side Palace absorbing the righteous energy from the void. These strange insects love to eat true energy, and the righteous energy in this space is naturally their favorite food. It is also because of the Jade Lake gathering that these strange insects were attracted here. Kill. Seeing the strange insects swallow the scroll mountain and the entire space trembling, Heavenly King Qingyu did not dare to be careless and quickly ordered the soldiers to attack. Unfortunately, before he could finish his words, a chill ran down his spine. He did not hold any hope as his body swayed and disappeared into thin air. Pluff! The moment his body disappeared, a huge tail appeared in the distance, and it instantly shattered the entire image. A few thousand feet away, Heavenly King Qingyu screamed as he flew out from the void. His armor had been shattered, and there was even blood flowing from his mouth and nose. The strange insect had struck the phantom, and even Heavenly King Qingyu had been injured. Heavenly King Qingyu managed to dodge the attack, but the immortal soldiers and generals not far away were not so lucky. The tail pierced through Heavenly King Qingyu's illusory figure, and charged into the origin formation formed by the immortal soldiers and generals. The origin formation collapsed upon contact, and thousands of immortal soldiers were instantly killed. Moreover, after the soldiers were killed, their bodies immediately withered. Immortal Emperor Go-chun was sitting on his golden throne. He coldly scowled and suddenly slammed his golden throne. Boom! The golden throne emitted layers of golden light and flew straight up into the sky. Dang! The vast void bell that had disappeared earlier reappeared. With a loud bang, a shadow of several thousand feet in size fell down from the sky. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The shadow completely covered the body of the strange insect and issued loud explosions. The void where the strange insect was completely shattered by the sound of the bell. The body of the strange insect was also destroyed inch by inch and turned into nothingness. Looking at the almost chaotic space, Immortal Emperor Go-chun proudly said, "A 9th-level origin energy insect. Is only so." Boom. Before he could finish speaking, a loud explosion came from behind him. The golden throne that Immortal Emperor Go-chun was sitting on was hit by a huge black tail. The powerful force and the sharpness of the tail that could pierce through the laws of space immediately flipped Immortal Emperor Go-chun and his golden throne over. No way, right? Not to mention Xiaohua's group. Even Immortal Emperor Go-chun himself was shocked. The body of the strange insect that was killed by the vast void bell appeared behind Immortal Emperor Go-chun's back. Dong. At this time, the vast void bell let out another loud bang. Immortal Emperor Go-chun looked up in horror, and saw that the back leg of the strange insect that was like a guillotine had disappeared into the void. It actually went through the maze of the Jade Lake, and struck the vast void bell. Inside the bell, Immortal Emperor Go-chun could clearly see that a deep crack was carved into the surface of the vast void bell. The inscriptions on the bell were split into two halves. Damn it! Immortal Emperor Go-chun's heart ached. He cursed and quickly hid the vast void bell into the depths of the origin formation. Then he reached out and grabbed the Emperor's sword at his waist. However, he only held it for a moment before letting it go. He knew that the Emperor's sword was extremely powerful because it contained the fate of the human race, the fate of the Confucian cultivators. This fate was useful against the human race and the demon race. However, if it was used against the strange insect, it might not be effective. Immortal Emperor Go-chun pondered for a while, and looked at the Eastern Ocean Queen. The Eastern Ocean Queen understood his intention. The two of them slapped the phantom of the golden throne at the same time. Boom! 2 rays of golden light shot out from the golden throne. Just like how it killed Xia Xian, the golden light condensed into the phantom of the immortal slaying platform in the sky. Boom! When the immortal slaying platform transformed into 100,000 feet long radiance and descended, everyone held their breaths and waited for the might of this slash. Puff! The guillotine's radiance and shadow fell on the strange insect's body. The strange insect's body was immediately flattened and couldn't resist at all. Excellent! The Dipankara archaic Buddha chanted, thinking that the strange insect had been killed. Xiaohua squinted his eyes and reminded, World Lord, don't forget that some of these strange insects' bodies are extremely hard, while some of them are especially soft and tough. Sure enough, although the strange insect was slashed into two halves by the immortal slaying platform's guillotine, just like how Xiaohua's wishful rod struck the strange insect, its tough body couldn't be broken into two halves. Go. The Eastern Ocean Queen glanced at immortal Emperor Go Chun. The two of them scolded at the same time. One of them spat out a mouthful of dragon-shaped true qi, while the other spat out a mouthful of phoenix-shaped true qi. When these two true qis fell on the immortal slaying platform's phantom, the phantom became even more solid. Bam! Finally, where the guillotine landed, the huge strange insect was slashed into two halves. Chirp chirp. After the strange insect was slashed apart, it was different from the other strange insects. It rolled around in midair as if it was in pain. I'll lend you a hand, Your Majesty. Seeing this, Xiaohua's heart skipped a beat. He slapped the top of his head, and a huge hand formed by tricolored thunderbolts descended, grabbing the other half of the strange insect. This thunderbolt hand was slightly different from the one Xiaohua had used previously. When this hand descended, it instantly sank into the strange insect's body. Boom. Just as gray mist surged out from the other half of the strange insect's body, its body only expanded by 30% before it began to explode. Aoe understood what was going on. He smiled and said, "Then, I'll lend you a hand, Your Majesty." As he spoke, Aoe chanted the heavenly dragon art. Balls of light the size of a wicker basket appeared outside the other half of the strange insect's body, revolving around it like fireflies. Fall. As Aoe chanted a mantra, all the balls of light fell into the other half of the strange insect's body. As expected, the other half of the strange insect's body exploded as well. Namomethria. Good. Namomethria clasped his palms together and said, "I understand. This strange insect might have the strength of a 9th grade essence force. Our 3 continents don't have any spiritual items that can make it explode. However, if it's cut into 2 or even 4 halves, and then take advantage of the fact that it hasn't recovered, we can still use a spiritual item of an 8th grade essence force to make it explode." "That's right. Namomethria is right," Xiaohua said with a smile. "Moreover, this agreement is only for low-grade strange insects." Just as Xiaohua finished speaking, his expression suddenly changed. He didn't have time to remind anyone. With a whoosh, he disappeared from the throne of creation. Of course, at the same time that he disappeared, the heavenly being and the Thunderbolt spiritual master also disappeared. On the entire Dao Sect's lightning mountain, only the throne of creation and the Grand Mist ancestor, who was sitting on the black and white praying mat beside it, were left. The Grand Mist ancestor naturally noticed Xiaohua's strange movements. He knew that something was wrong, but before he could teleport, a huge black shadow blocked the entire mountain peak. An inexplicable confinement force sealed the space. Boom. 2 pitch-black blade lights slashed down from the sky. Not good. Sensing the aura of death under the blade lights, the Grand Mist ancestor cursed inwardly. In his heart, he hated Xiaohua to the bone. He already firmly believed that Xiaohua deliberately didn't remind him. The Grand Mist ancestor remained motionless as he formed a series of seals with his hands. Black and white halos appeared in the space around him, and the moment these halos appeared, the Grand Mist ancestor's 2 scythe-like hind legs slashed down. Swoosh. One of the hind legs landed on the throne of creation. The entire throne emitted lightning, blocking the light shadow. However, the throne was also lifted off the lightning mountain by the hind legs and fell into the jade lake below the mountain peak. As for the other hind leg, it naturally slashed into the black and white halo around the Grand Mist ancestor. However, the strange thing was that the black and white halo was split in half. After the light shadow passed, the black and white halos merged back together. The Grand Mist ancestor was standing inside the halo, unharmed. Of course, the Grand Mist ancestor did not dare to stay for long after dodging the calamity. His figure flashed, and with a flash of black and white light, he forcefully broke through the space shackles and teleported to another place. At this time, a strange insect that was even more ferocious than the previous one slowly appeared in the sky south of the Jade Lake. Damn it! Xiaohua, Tianren, and Lightning Daoist appeared high in the sky above the Jade Lake. The three of them surrounded the strange insect, and Xiaohua couldn't help cursing inwardly when he sensed the mysterious aura emitted by the strange insect. This Xiao boasts that his luck is extremely good, but every time this Xiao comes across a strange insect, how bad is this Xiao's luck? Let's not talk about it previously. This Xiao is now a Daoist Gate's Grand Ascension stage expert, standing at the peak of the three continents. Why does this strange insect seem to be more powerful than this Xiao? As for the strange insect, it ignored Xiaohua and the Grand Mist ancestors' attempt to escape after striking down the throne of fortune. Instead, it waved its saw-like tentacles again. The two tentacles were sharper than any magic treasure, and they landed on the lightning mountain peak. In an instant, the entire mountain peak collapsed. Then the strange insect opened its mouth and swallowed the collapsed mountain peak. No. Xiaohua's eyes narrowed as he watched the huge mountain disappear at a speed visible to the naked eye. He said in a low voice, "We can't let this strange insect swallow anymore. This strange insect's strength has already reached the 9th grade of origin energy. If it evolves again, who in the three continents can subdue it?" Fellow Taoists. With a plan in mind, Xiaohua hurriedly said, "Wait until I execute a divine ability to destroy this strange insect. Then you two fellow Taoists kill it." Before Tianren and the lightning Taoist could reply, boom boom boom. A series of sounds came from the void around the Jade Lake. Several blade-like black shadows flashed through the air and landed on the Buddhist lotus, scroll, and other mountain peaks. There was even a huge tail that stretched out from the Jade Lake. Damn it! The golden-winged Great Pung roared as its body flashed with the brilliance of the moon and stars. Its sharp claws attacked the newly appeared strange insect. Namo Mithra Buddha. The world's sovereign didn't dare to be careless. He formed a Buddhist mudra with both hands and channeled the power of faith. It turned into countless heavenly flowers and Buddhist light balls to stop another strange insect. Immortal Emperor Go Chun, the East Sea Empress, Aoe, and Ao Qian didn't stop. They used their divine abilities to deal with the strange insects that were tens of thousands of feet long. In just a moment, the entire Jade Lake was in chaos. Everything was crushed by the strange insects. Even the previously hidden outline of the Lingyun Side Palace was revealed in the void. Moreover, this outline had been shattered long ago. Clearly, it was destroyed by several strange insects that were tens of thousands of feet long. Not only that, these strange insects were too powerful. Wherever they went, nothing remained. Every time they waved their tentacles and hind legs, they could cut through the void. Wherever they cut through, the immortal soldiers and generals were easily killed. There was no way to avoid them. Although Sun Jian's strength hadn't reached the 9th grade of essence energy, he had the void-seeing eye. Therefore, he had already opened the void-seeing eye between his eyebrows and carefully observed the changes in the surrounding space. Of course, his void-seeing eye wasn't enough to completely detect the traces of the strange insects. However, this technique alone was enough to save his life. Now, seeing that even the sovereigns were panicking, he didn't hesitate to give the order. Retreat. Generals, retreat from the Lingyun Side Palace. This was true monarch Qing Yuan. Even Heavenly King Qing Yu didn't dare to give such an order in the Jade Lake gathering. When the immortal soldiers and generals heard this order, they were all relieved. They hurriedly used their divine abilities to teleport out. When Heavenly King Qing Yu saw this, he hurriedly shouted, "Generals, maintain the formation and retreat. These strange insects came from the void. If you teleport out, you'll encounter even more strange insects." When the immortal soldiers and generals heard this, they were all alarmed. They hurriedly got into a battle formation and slowly flew out. It wasn't that they hadn't experienced blood formations on the battlefield before. However, when faced with such cruel and cold-blooded insects, they couldn't help but panic. Xiaohua didn't have the time to use the delusion breaker eye to see how many strange insects there were in the void. This was because it was completely meaningless. After he gave the order to the celestial being and the lightning immortal, he immediately waved his hands. Kacha! Layers of thunder mist appeared in the sky. Countless vital chi of heaven and earth turned into crystals and fell into it. Chirp chirp. When Xiaohua activated his magic power, it immediately attracted the attention of several strange insects. Other than the strange insects that were devouring the lightning mountain, the others also stopped devouring. They raised their huge heads, and a strange color appeared in their black eyes. Xiaohua didn't dare to be the slightest bit negligent. He used the unstoppable thunder. 5 Qi righteous thunder, 9 heavens divine thunder, 3 corpses Yin thunder, Xianming demonic thunder, and triple light amplifying thunder mixed together to form a huge lightning hand. It brought with it a kind of heaven and earth will, and suddenly fell down. When the strange insect saw this, it didn't know how to dodge at all. It let out a chirp-chirp sound. This chirp sounded as if it was excited. Wherever the sound passed, the space began to collapse. Then, the strange insect's legs kicked, and it pounced towards the lightning hand. Under the lightning hand, the power of thunder and lightning originally sealed the space within 10,000 feet. However, this sealed space seemed to be nothing in the eyes of the strange insect. In a moment, it had already rushed under the lightning hand. However, the reason why the 3 continents cultivators, whether it was the human race, demonic beast race, or dragon race, was able to reach the peak of 9th grade origin energy was because they had a breakthrough in the space law. There was no need to talk about the human race. Confucian cultivators ascended with the red clouds, Tao sects ascended with the white sun, and Buddhist sects were guided by the heavens. The demonic beast race and dragon race both broke through the void and relied on the space law. Among Xiaohua's current abilities, there were many times where he didn't need to use any magic spells. As long as he used the space law, he could produce effects that were more powerful than ordinary magic spells. But today, the various sects venerables were facing the world destroying strange insects. These strange insects came from the void and fed on the space law. Previously, when Immortal Emperor Go-Chen activated the vast void bell, the strange insects also collapsed along with the space. Moreover, the strange insects' bodies did not suffer any damage. Therefore, when facing these strange insects, the various sects venerables could only use limited methods. They also couldn't reveal too much of their peak 9th grade origin energy. Of course, venerables were venerables after all. Although there were more than 10,000 feet of strange insects, as long as they put in some effort, these strange insects would be wiped out in the time it took to brew a cup of tea. At this moment, the entire Jade Lake was in a mess. It was no longer as beautiful as before. There were still many strange insects flying around wantonly in the space. Although the Lingyun Side Palace did not collapse, its tattered state made Immortal Emperor Go-Chen feel ashamed and angry. Damn it! Seeing that everyone was silent, the golden-winged great rock shouted first before anyone could speak. We were discussing how to kill the strange insect here, and this strange insect gave us a head-on blow. If I didn't know that these strange insects came here from the Lingyun Side Palace's pure and noble energy, I would have suspected that these strange insects got the news beforehand and formed a team to launch a surprise attack. At this point, the golden-winged great rock suddenly stopped. His eyes flashed with a golden light as he looked at the various venerables above the Jade Lake in disbelief. He seemed to have thought of something. Sage Rock. Immortal Emperor Go-Chen said, "You're a great sage of the demon clan. Do you think these strange insects have a leader?" The golden-winged great rock seemed to have understood and nodded. There's no need to talk about this. Not to mention the sky-devouring demon clan. Even the featherless demon clan, as long as there are groups of them, will have a leader. Of course, I'm from the Flying Feather clan, so I don't know the exact situation of the insect clan. In the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm, there has never been a great sage of the insect clan who could enter the Great Sage Palace. As for the Featherless Demon clan and the awakening of intelligence, maybe there was one. The golden-winged great rock's tone was uncertain. After all, no matter where in the 3 continents, the insect clan was the weakest. As for the strange insects, most of their intelligence was weak and did not know how to cultivate, so it was difficult for them to Featherless Demon clan and the awakening of intelligence. Insect clan? Hearing this, Xiaohua's heart skipped a beat. He immediately thought of the spiritual realm in the space, and the 10,000 demons realm outside the 3 continents. Of course, this saint's knowledge is limited to the 1,000 demons sacred realm. These world-destroying strange insects come from outside the realm, and their strength is close to the peak of the 3 continents. Perhaps there will be a leader? The golden-winged great rock added another perhaps. That's impossible. The Pentaceratops shook its head. The demon clan that can featherless demon clan and the awakening of intelligence must have spiritual intelligence, just like how Buddhist disciples need the root of wisdom. Look at these strange insects. They are all fearless of death. How can they have any spiritual intelligence? Just now, even those strange insects that have reached the 9th level of essence power seem to only have vital qi in their eyes. They didn't dodge much when facing attacks. Hiss. Hearing this, Xiaohua suddenly sucked in a breath of cold air as if he had a toothache. The scene of him fighting with the 2 strange insects immediately appeared in his mind. At that time, the strange insects were not as clumsy and ignorant as they were now. At that time, the strange insects were so ferocious and agile. Not good, Xiaohua hurriedly shouted. These strange insects must have a leader. Moreover, the spiritual intelligence of this leader may not be any worse than mine. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.